The Indiana Department of Transportation maintains over 11,000 miles of roadway, and we paint those miles of roadway each year. And this is just an isolated incident that happened.
The drive-by striping, whatever.
Herb Baumeister of Carmel saw it all.
I said to my son, they're gonna hit that raccoon with the spray gun, and sure enough, they just striped right over its face and neck. Didn't even move it. No effort to get it out of the way. So I happened to have a Polaroid with me, so I took a shot at the thing.
A raccoon, which met its demise on the yellow line, became one with the paint. The raccoon has since been removed. This is all that's left.
This was just, the painter should have had a chalk line drawn around his career by state officials. There was no excuse for that. The poor thing deserved a better fate than that.
So just what is the explanation for this? For that, we went to the State Highway Department itself.
The Indiana Department of Transportation feels like this is a
Good morning, good evening, or afternoon. Gosh, I'm so used to the night show. That was Herb Baumeister. Just a little bit of Herb Baumeister to introduce y'all. What's up, everybody? Thank you for hopping in, the members only live that we're doing today. I'm so excited. I always love having, let me change my StreamYard. I always love having SilkySouthernTea on the show. She's amazing. So I went ahead and put the invite out to Silky. She'll join when she's ready. And there's a couple videos that I wanted to kind of introduce you guys to. If you've never heard of Herb Baumeister, crazy, disturbing, sickening. So there will be at some points, we will have the graphic warning up there because sometimes it is pretty disturbing, but those moments will be short. You will definitely see that in the top right of the screen, just in case when we get to those parts. But as we get into the case and we kind of explain what Herb Baumeister was doing, the property, still to this day, they're still finding remains. So it's still active. And as we get into it, you'll kind of see Well, this is crazy. There was a certain way that he did what he did. And he was one of those members of the community that had a high status. And so things were kind of like not really like, you know, those things, those situations where it's kind of like you say to yourself, something ain't right, but you just can't put a finger on it. And then the stuff that took place at the property, the stuff that he had at the property, I'll call them decorations. It'll just leave you going, what the hell? And most people haven't heard about him. So you're definitely going to learn some stuff today if you don't know who it is. I'm going to say what's up to everybody. Give me one moment here. And I think I needed to email. 1 second. There we go. All right, let's get to the hellos, and hello, everybody. I'm gonna be putting out a community post tomorrow. Sometime in the afternoon. So when you see a community post pop up sometime in the afternoon, maybe even tonight, I'm not sure, probably tomorrow afternoon. Definitely be on the lookout for the community post. I don't know how to say it without saying it, but yeah, just definitely look for the community post. Skittles, good morning. What's up, Punksy? Oh, be safe while you're driving, please. And definitely hope it helps the trip go by quicker. And here's Silky. Lovely Silky. What's up, Silky? Uh-oh. I don't know if it's my StreamYard. I don't know if it's my StreamYard or what, but there's like... Okay. I hear like a skipping. Yeah, I don't know if it's my StreamYard or what. Yeah, can you hear me? You're like skipping. I don't know if it's my stream. You can hear me just fine?
Yeah,
it's like it's like kind of going in and out or something. Here, let me turn down my music. Good morning, by the way. I don't know. I can't really understand what you're saying. It's like, yeah, here, let me, give me 1 second. What I'm going to do two things. I'm going to kick you, and then you can come back in. I'm also going to refresh my side, too. Because I don't know. It might be StreamYard. I don't know. It has been acting really crazy lately, so I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my side, and then go ahead and come back in after that, and we'll see if that fixes it, okay? If you can hear me okay. We'll do that. I'll be right back. It's still, yeah, it's still like cutting in and out. Maybe unplug your device and plug it back in. Maybe I'm not sure. Sorry, I gotta reboot everything here. There we go. Whoa, not snack bar. It's not snack time. No, you're on mute. If you can hear me. Oh. All right. Now.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes. Yes, it works. Cool.
Okay. You know,
Sweet.
IT always says, the first thing they always say is turn off your computer and turn it back on, right? Because that's most of the stuff.
Yeah, reboot.
Polygraph.
Yeah, refresh. Refresh. So good morning, good evening, afternoon. Gosh, why I'm so used to saying good evening. I need to get that out of my head. I need to get it out of my head. Let me say hi to everybody. Skittles, Kib Kitty, Caddy. We'll get that squared away later today, promise. Let me see here. Tracy, good morning, good afternoon. Yoli Yoli, good morning, good afternoon. Unravel, good morning, good afternoon. Unique New York. So is there anything before we get into this? Chris and Chris, what's up? I like that. Before we get into this Herb case, is there any updates on the manhunt? Does anybody know? I heard there was some action going on a little bit ago. What's up, Debray? Man, please hit the like if you haven't yet. Appreciate that. He was a bad dude. Yeah, the guy is. Yeah. If you guys know, it's pretty crazy. I call him decoration, Silky.
Oh yeah.
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 That's what I'm calling him. I don't know what other word you want to.
He called them his friends.
His friends.
He said they were his friends. Yeah.
What's up, Dre? Typically, you meet his friends.
Yeah.
His stationary friends. What's up, Polygraph over there on Stokie? Yeah, we're good now. I'm just getting through these old comments. Let me see here. Appreciate you guys. Sorry about the refresh there. And StreamYard. Thank you, Sherry Faye over there on Silky. It's been StreamYard's been a battle. So you've only checked out EVMUX, right? Have you?
Yeah.
And OBS. And that's it, right?
EVMUX and yeah, there are a couple. Like I said, I have to go back through. But you know, I don't usually have a problem with StreamYard, but the last live I did, I froze, and I know you have this problem a lot. My stream completely froze, and so I'm thinking I need to pay for one. Probably, but OBS, if you can learn it, that's the thing. Yeah. It's amazing, but you have to have all these plugins, and I'm not sure that my PC is going to be, well, I have a laptop. I'm not sure it's going to hold it. I mean, it's good for...
That's what I'm having. Yeah. That's what I'm having issues with right now with my PC is it's the processing is not... To be able to run, like, especially with this manhunt stuff, having the flight radar, two different live streams going, and you know, Twitter for sourcing, and just all these different things going on. Yeah, it definitely it's surprising because you would think there would be something out there that wouldn't be like that. With OBS, like you say plugins, does that mean you have to have like is it like different coding that has to be put into it? It's all it's all like, coding.
Well, it's not. I mean, you don't have to code it. I guess you could if you knew what you're doing, but I don't. It's plugins that you can get from the internet. Some are paid and some are a lot are free. But the only thing that scares me is the first time I went live with a guest, I did everything to the T that they said to do, and I could see and hear her, but the audience couldn't. So I don't know if it was on her end or mine. I'm thinking mine. And after that, I was like, you know what? I had to cut that and that show and just go to StreamYard,
Oh,
on the
wow. In the middle
fly.
of the, oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it was.
Wow.
It's. I've still got that video. It's like a long video of craziness, but it's private. It's not on my list. And I thought one of these days I am gonna cut up that video just for comedy, uh, because
Yeah.
it was ridiculous. So, but
Mm.
there have been times that I have done OBS on and just recorded a show. Obviously, there were some things that I needed another camera because there were some things that weren't good about it. But that's what I'm striving for,
Mm.
is because I use a separate camera when I do just videos,
Mm-hmm.
and which is a much, much better camera. But I have to download it because it's not compatible with my Mac, and it's not it's compatible with my iPhone, but you have to take it and download it in sections and then re-upload it to the computer. It's a nightmare to do a
Mm-hmm.
video.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I want to just be able to record straight from my Mac and then edit
Well,
it.
why don't, that's why I use Twitch. It's
Really?
not, yeah, it's not only, it's not only a way, it's another branch for your
Mm-hmm.
show to be put out there in a different, setting. But also, it records your past broadcast, and it has a video editing tool already in the dashboard
Oh
for the
wow.
Twitch. Yeah. And so anytime that I make highlights or re-uploads or any of these animations and stuff, I have the stream going to Twitch. Right now I have it going to Twitch. So when I'm done, I can literally go to my Twitch, clip out little parts of the intro. Like if you go see my highlight and I got the EvilleCJ and then a little thumb up and,
Mm-hmm.
ends with this and that. It's all from Twitch. I don't use any I don't use any other, because I've tried, and you're so limited in, with what you can do or how many times you can do this or whatever. With Twitch, I literally cut out the first 8 seconds is the first part of my clip. That's the first 8 seconds. You can clip it and cut it
Hmm.
and publish it. And the cool thing about Twitch is you don't even have to use your computer space to upload a video to YouTube. You could literally make the edit on Twitch and then post the upload from Twitch to YouTube, and you don't have to download anything.
Wow.
So it saves your computer space too.
Okay. See, I have a Twitch account under SilkySouthernTea, but I haven't done anything with it because I don't know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
my son does, and I need him to just sit down and set it up for me to do that. But
Well, I'll help you
uh,
out. We can do an offline StreamYard sometime. I'll screen share it. I'll show you mine, and then you can
huh.
literally look at yours and just follow along as
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
explain everything, show you how it works. It'll literally maybe take 45 minutes or an hour.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Let's do that.
yeah, sometime this weekend we can even maybe, I don't know what you got going on today, but even sometime today I could even help you out just to walk you around, because really
Yeah.
it's going to help you out as a content creator. It saves your space, it saves your time, and literally it's another branch. So why
Yeah.
not? Uh,
Right. And
it's a win-win.
the thing with this platform, and I'm not going to say the name, but obviously the platform you're watching this on,
Yeah.
you never know when they're going to pull down your videos for some stupid reason.
Well, and I always tell everybody this as well. If for some reason EvilleCJ, you don't see EvilleCJ on YouTube anymore for some reason,
Hmm.
I'll be having the same exact show over on Twitch.
Yeah.
So you're not tied down to one company either. You can literally still have your show.
Yeah.
No matter what, you're not held down like maybe other people might be. So
Yeah,
Twitch
we'll
is
do that.
definitely a great way to, it's security. It's, the ease of not having to use all your memory. Because trust me, when I started making these highlights, man, that's where all my computer space was going, was for all these videos.
Yeah. Oh
It's like,
yeah.
damn, I got to think about something else, some other way to do it. And then I'm like, why don't I just use Twitch? Boom.
Oh my
Gig,
gosh. Yeah.
gigs free. What's up, Bossy? What's up, everybody coming in? We're just chit chatting for a few. Yeah, we'll help you out sometime, like even today or whatever. But
Yeah. Good.
so I was going to ask you. I did come across. I know you were wanting to check out this interview with. He looks like Colonel Sanders. What's his name?
Yeah. I
Like for real, looks like. I mean, like to a T, Colonel Sanders.
I don't. It was just something that I had started watching. I'll tell y'all. Let me just give y'all a heads up because I know we're gonna cover a lot. But I watched a podcast called what was it? Time Suck. The Time Suck podcast. I guess it's a podcast, and there's also a video on YouTube. He goes for 2 hours. This man, if you want like the details into each of the victims, um, he talks for over 2 hours straight, quickly, with so much information, like so many details. Like we wouldn't have time. You'd have to have it all written out and scripted, which he obviously does. But if you're really interested in this case, then I would suggest, if you want to know about all the victims, especially, go to what did I call it? Time Suck podcast. Never seen him
Time Suck
before,
Podcast.
but it makes me wonder what else he covers because it's a wealth of information.
Well, this is what's crazy when you talk. When I was doing some prep this morning for this episode, I came across a couple videos from local WTHR from a couple days ago that had interviews with family members of the victims or something, and I was like, oh shit, they actually sat down. Is there some kind of anniversary happening this year or something? Because I see a lot of videos that are recent.
I don't. Okay, Justice may know, but I
Shout
don't
out
think
Justice Serve Daily.
Yeah, absolutely, because she knows a ton about this as well. But I don't think it's so much an anniversary as it is the new information that they are literally begging people. If you have anyone who came up missing during this time period, please, contact them because they've got all of these bones and they don't know who they are. They have like something like 10,000. It's a ridiculous number of bones that they have, and they don't know. And I'm sure some of these bones belong to the same people, but they don't know who any of these people are, and so they're just begging for help in identifying. And one of the things that I learned this morning was that if you had a family member who could have possibly been in the area or traveling through at that time period, now this is back in the 90s, people were not, this is terrible, CJ, this is terrible, but people were not reporting their loved ones missing and trying to see if they were at Fox Hollow Farm because it would have outed their family as being gay. They didn't want their son, to be in this number of people and, that he was visiting gay bars and stuff. So, a lot of people,
it
for
was
that
a
reason,
different time, back then.
it was,
for sure.
And, but I'm thinking, if it were my child,
right,
and
right.
even if I was not happy with my child's decisions, the thought that, I wouldn't care, I would want to know, but that's not the mindset for a lot of people. But now it has changed, and I think realizing that, they're like, you know what, are you going to come forward now? Did you have a cousin or a brother or somebody who disappeared during this time? And I think just people are more willing nowadays to say, hey, he could have been. You never know.
Right. I mean, it was a different time back then, of course. how many? When did I mean, hell, the video that I started off with, you could tell it was like from the early frickin' 90s or something.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
just from the
thinking,
quality.
yeah. And the last thing that I was watching or listening to was talking about 1993. And I'll be honest with you, I cannot remember the exact year. But what they were saying even then is, even though, just think about it. Wasn't it in the early 80s that John Wayne Gacy broke? And, they put everything, it was online for, I'm not online, we didn't have a line. It was on social, international media for a long time, the details. But yet, when this happened in Indiana, you got a few little blurbs about it, but it wasn't covered like we would cover it now. And it was because they said of the culture of Indiana, like basically Indiana at that time didn't want this whole thing to blow up. They were trying to keep things more under wraps because of the sexual orientation of the victims and the perpetrators. So, it's sad because a lot of people don't know about Herb Baumeister, which to me is one of the most interesting and bizarre SKs that you've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. When you start to look into it, you're like, what the hell?
Exactly.
Definitely, yeah, definitely creepy. So he was like a doctor or something, right?
No, his
He
dad
was
was a doctor. He was an
okay.
anesthesiologist.
His dad was
Yeah.
okay.
Herb was he had a lot of different jobs. The one he's the most known for is he was a businessman and he had all of these Save-A-Lot stores. Now, it's not the
Yes,
grocery. Yeah,
that's
it's
what it
not the
was. Save a
grocery
lot.
store.
Oh
Right.
no, no.
And no, it wasn't that Save-A-Lot. That's what I thought because it's spelled, I think, the same.
Yeah, I could.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it wasn't. These were thrift stores. So he was working with a children's organization. I want to tell you it was I can't remember. I just heard it this morning. Anyway, there was this children's organization that people would donate, like use clothes to, and he was in partnership with them. They would get the donations, and I guess he would process them, put them in the stores, and sell them. And the proceeds were going to help these children in whatever different ways they needed. And so he had these really big, nice looking stores on the outside. And that's what he did primarily. And this is definitely what he did when he was caught. But yeah,
So like a deflection, like I couldn't be doing these crimes. I help children.
Yeah,
kind
but yes, but strangely
of.
enough, he liked to hire adolescent males to primarily as employees. So, it's like that ought to be a little bit of a sign, but
Yeah, because he had a pool.
yeah, because generally speaking, in a thrift store, because I love thrifting now, I love it.
Oh, I do too. I love garage sales too. They're my favorite.
Oh yeah. But when you go into these stores, what you generally see, at least in the front part of the store, you see women everywhere. But not so with old Herb. He liked to hire the guys. So,
And how long was he married?
I believe it was 25 years. 25 years. And in that time, because they got married in, I want to tell you it was the 60s. They were married for 25 years. And this is what I thought, and I don't know what you've got for us to watch, but I want to tell you some of the things that I heard about Herb from this Time Suck podcast was crazy. They said as a child, just to, catch you up, like his dad is an his dad is an anesthesiologist, okay? And so, obviously, makes a lot of money, okay? Herb grew up in good conditions. He had some
Yeah.
his mom was a stay-at-home mom. His brothers and sisters,
Mhm.
whatever, no problems that we know of with them. So it was just kind of Herb out there by himself in this weirdness. And he did some very questionable things as in school. Um, One day, now, okay, in this time period, I can see where it would still be weird, but go back like maybe 100 years, it probably wouldn't be so bad. You know how kids used to play pranks on their teachers, the old
Mhm.
stories about kids hating the teachers and putting a frog in their chair and all this kind
Oh,
of
I
stuff.
used to be that kid. And you think I make T-shirts now? I was making T-shirts back in school too, in front of the class. Trust me. Trust me.
No, see, that was.
Sometimes I would harass these teachers just to make them pass me with a C. You know what I mean? Like, get this fucking kid out of my class. No, sorry.
Oh my god. No, you know what's funny, CJ, is I wasn't that kind, okay? I was more of a covert. My
Yeah.
my specialty, because yeah, I was a rascal too, but my specialty was with a completely straight face and sincere question. I would ask an embarrassingly ridiculous question to the teacher, which they would be forced to answer about something, in the class, while I just sat there acting like I really just wanted to know. This is a sincere question. And, they'd be like, and I would enjoy really, really needling the teacher
Oh, I
where they
bet.
never really knew if I
I
was
bet.
sincere or if I was just messing with them. Of course I was
Yeah.
messing with you. I did it in college too.
I
Did
bet
it
you
in
had like a look
college.
with your eyes too. You probably had like you probably did that pose right
Oh
there while
yeah.
you were yeah. Just waiting. Go ahead. Answer the question.
Well,
Yeah.
let's say if I can say this, I don't want to get in trouble. Well, I am not. My stream right now to my people is not
Uh-oh.
members only, but
Okay.
I'll make it that as soon as we
Oh, you're
get
fine.
done.
You're fine.
But but in the meantime, for instance, in college, when I got to nursing school, I wanted to understand what I'm saying. I wanted to know what the plural was of the male parts if you had more than one. You understand what I'm saying? I can't say the word, I don't think. The anatomically correct male
Mhm.
part. I sincerely asked the teacher, how would, because when you, like, sometimes it goes into the Latin. So I was like, the P word, I was
Yeah.
like, if you have more than one, is it this or is it that? And, I'm taking notes. I'm like, I need to know. And she's like, I've never had that question before. And the class is dying because they know me. They know me. And I'm like, well, she's like, in what situation would you ever need to know? I said, well, honestly, if you're referring, like, what if somebody has an anomaly? Which, by the way, I've seen later on. Whoa, that's mind blowing. But I was like, yeah, you pull back the sheet in the hospital and you're like, holy cow. But I never knew that I was going to actually have a reason to ask that question. But, I really could not stand my teacher. She was an idiot. And she did get fired eventually. But I would ask her these sincere questions, taking notes and, being completely serious. And
Oh, wow.
so, yeah, that was the kind of needling I did.
Wow. Silky, yeah, right? With the creative imagination,
Mm-hmm.
advanced burn skills.
And
Damn.
never crack a smile.
No.
And argue to the death that I needed to know this information, that this is a
Yeah.
sincere question. Why can't you
That's
answer
awesome.
me?
Answer me now.
Why can't you tell me? I am asking a legit
Anomalies. Anomalies. There is 1%. They don't call it 1% for a reason,
question. And I have witnessed that 1%.
Yes.
Honest to
There are-
goodness. So there you
There are
go.
nuclear spills and disasters that happen. Come on, there's
Yeah, and you know what?
contamination everywhere. Shit can happen, yo. Shit can happen.
It can. And like I said, I asked that question many, many years before I ever knew I would have to legit use a word to describe more than one. There you go. It was foreshadowing.
I learned something today, Silky. That's for damn sure. And left it to because now you got me wondering what the correct term would be, and I can't ask it on the show, so I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
ask you after the show's over. But
Is
I'm
it
curious
like-
what the answer was.
Right, because nobody knew. I'm like, is it ES on the end or is it with an I?
Right.
Do you drop
with
the S and
right,
put an
with it
I?
I was
Because I'm-
thinking the I. That's what I was thinking. But
Well, that's what I asked because we were studying, partially studying Latin, and I was like, would this go to an I or would this be an ES?
oh, shit.
Yeah, my classmates were dying. But,
Oh my
you know.
lord.
Anyway.
Hey, this shit happens when me and Silky get together. It is what it is. Y'all should be used to this shit by now.
Exactly.
Every time we get together, we have a little comedy mixed in, and we just grab that wheel and go right off the road. But we're back on.
Yeah. So Herb,
yes,
what he
Herb.
did was neither as bad as what you did or what I have done.
Okay.
Herb saw a deceased crow out in the schoolyard or whatever, and comes in and throws it on his teacher's desk. And everybody was horrified. I'm thinking, what? To me, that's not that weird, but apparently, maybe because they thought it was out of character for him or whatever, they were horrified. Teacher, as a teacher, I'd not be thrilled. But anyway, but it gets worse.
I mean, definitely alarming. If they bring in a dead animal,
Yeah.
you're like,
here.
oh, dude, what?
Yeah. What do you say? Thank you?
Right. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Where's the fucking Lysol? That's what I'd be saying. Bleach, Lysol, now. Sorry.
Yeah, I would rather have had an apple, but I understand. This is a gift. Thank you.
Don't wanna
But
take
so
that. Right.
he started doing things like that, but early in life, it was sometime around this time that his dad actually, now we don't know what exactly prompted this. I would love to hear somebody actually break their silence and talk about it, but his dad had a mental evaluation done on him because he was on Herb when he was a youngster, because I'm sure that he saw this, which leads me to believe, was he harming animals? Was he doing something really, really weird?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So certainly his family had a clue, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. At what age? Do you know?
They didn't say what age, but
Okay.
I'm thinking it is maybe close to the crow time. I don't know. He was still in grade school.
Adolescence. Yeah.
Yeah, either grade school or adolescence. But then he also, when he gets married, this is weird. He doesn't date in high school, which, this is the 60s, I think. And so if he is a gay male at that time, then obviously it all makes sense in hindsight. There's a lot of people I didn't understand when I was younger, and now I'm like, oh, well, that explains that, but and so that's kind of the way it was. But now when he was in college, he met his wife, and they dated. They met at a I think it was a Red Sox? I can't remember. I think it was a Red Sox game. Anyway, it was a sports event. They met, they started dating, and she said they would go out for drives and maybe get a Coke. Like, there was no fooling around. Okay. Now, understandingly, it was a different time, but everything was really kind of dull, really, I guess. She just describes it as Americana. This was completely normal. And then they get married. Now, 2 months after their marriage, his dad checks him into a mental, I'm not going to say asylum, a mental hospital. And he spends 60 days in there. And she never really knew what his problems were. She wasn't fighting that he go, but I think the dad, like, probably helped them out financially a lot. But I'm just saying, if I get married to somebody and 2 months later they spend 60 days in the mental hospital, I'm definitely questioning my life decisions and if I want to stay with this person. Now, later on, unbeknownst to his wife, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and something else. And I'm not sure if it was, I know schizophrenia was the big one. I don't understand why someone didn't tell her at that time. But, they also thought that he could possibly have multiple personality disorder, which back then was probably lumped in with schizophrenia, but it's two different things.
Yeah.
And so after his little stint in the loony bin, life just goes on. And I think we've mentioned this before, but she said in the 25 years that they were married, they had intimate relations 6 times.
25 years?
25 years and 6 times. And out of those 6 times, they had 3 kids. I mean, man, you got that precise.
Wow.
You got your timing down, that's for sure. But yeah.
Wow, that had to be hard for her. Jeez.
She doesn't. There's never any record of her having affairs or even seemingly upset that much. I mean, I watched, and I could not find this interview. I don't know who it was with, but I saw an interview with her years ago, and she is so calm and normal seeming.
Really?
Yeah, and it's just like, it's like, I don't know. It's like you must live in Wonderland, because everybody that I know, and even myself when I was younger and very naive, I would have still been asking the question, is something wrong? Because this just doesn't seem normal to me. But clearly, that wasn't a red flag for her that he was doing something else.
Did she ever mention, like, maybe, like, talk as in she was around and always there and loyal because she felt maybe she wanted to try and maybe she recognized at first that he wasn't normal and then thought maybe she met him because she was supposed to be the one that was going to protect him or something kind of thing, or to be that loyal. Did they stay married? Or did they?
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
So they stayed married. So she maybe.
Oh yeah.
She was just loyal. Like was there to protect him no matter what he did because she knew he was disturbed, kind of thing.
I think back to, the tales that my mom and stuff have told me about life in that era and how things were. And I think that if she came from a lot of families where, they sheltered their kids, it wasn't like they could find stuff out, like you can now at an early age. But I think it was a culture of you stay married no matter what, and probably being sheltered. She said that Herb was a great, father. And, he was a provider. He was a good, as far as...
Oh, she did.
The other husband stuff, not that, but, just as far as being a family man and being a good dad and everything, he was great. Of course, he provided for her. She was a teacher, and he did go to college. He did graduate from college, but and he always made a pretty good living. But after their
I mean,
first
you can
child,
tell from the property. It's like,
oh
damn,
yeah,
that's a nice property.
yeah. But now they did get a good amount of. We think it is. We don't have the receipts, but we think that his dad probably helped them a lot at different times. But regardless, after the birth of their first child, which I'm thinking was early in the marriage since there was only 6 times, uh, that she stopped working as a teacher, and so he was a good provider, and I guess she just learned to live with it. I don't know if she talked to her female friends and was asking questions like how often, because
Right. I mean, come on. And then you're talking like in the 70s, right? When they're married. I mean, in the 70s shit was popping, like really popping. So
yeah,
that would be even more odd, like, whoa, okay, hold on. You have the generation of free love going around. But yet you're completely like way opposite of the generation of free love. So like that should have been like a double fucking red flag in my opinion during that generation. Um but somebody said that hold on one second. Something about they did get divorced in 96 after the
they
PD
did.
talked to her.
They did.
Oh, so after the PD said, "Look, your husband is a freaking unaliver. Here's this and this," then she went ahead and
Yes, but not the
backed
first
away.
time. Yeah, not the first time
Oh,
they talked to her. The first time Herb had told her that this was just, being brought up by a disgruntled employee and not to let the police search the yard, yada yada. But at
hmm.
some point, she started putting two together. Well, let's see. He hasn't touched me in 25 years, so could this be true?
Hmm.
That and some other things that came along. So yeah, she did eventually, but they had talked to her, and it was several months before she started getting a clue. After they had brought all this evidence to her, because they already knew who he was by this time, and he went undiscovered, and he was known as the I-70 SK before the. I mean, it's kind of, he has two. Now, okay, this guy has two titles. He's the
What?
I-70, yeah, he is the I-70 SK and the Fox Hollow Farm SK.
Oh yeah, that's right, Fox. Yeah, because this thing I got from a local TV station from 2 days ago did a program called Forgotten at Fox Hollow, the victims of the Indiana SK. That was
Yeah,
just from 2 days ago. It's a program that I was going to show. Fox Hollow. Now, I did also see as I was doing some prep that there's hauntings.
yeah, yeah. They say, and there is a whole
Man, maybe I
documentary.
can you actually stop by this place? Like if you're out and about, can you like go by and like stop
I
by
mean,
this place?
I mean,
Because I'll
somebody
fucking
lives
go
there.
if you can. Oh,
uh,
okay.
I mean, somebody lives there, as far
Okay.
as I know. Unless something has happened, because the same family that had the paranormal activity stayed. But I mean, there is a road
Okay.
that goes right in front of it, and unless they've put up a lot of trees or something in the past few years, you can see it. It's very
Wow.
easily seen from the road.
I need to get a drone. Because then I wouldn't even have to go to somebody's fucking road.
Yeah, it's a
Right?
beautiful property.
Give
It
me a drone
is.
and I don't have to. Hmm.
Do you have the footage that I think Jinx had put in Discord of Indie Archives pictures of Fox Hollow?
Let me see here. In Discord?
Yeah, she had put it in, I can't remember what tab, but she put it in there, and she said the Indie Archive was okay with you showing it.
Oh, sweet. Indie Archive? Yeah, because I do have a couple videos that I saved from prep this morning that had Indie Archive, some drone footage, right? Is that what it was? The
No,
drone?
this one, well, the one I watched was pictures. It didn't show much of the outside property. It was all the inside.
Oh,
Just looking at it, it's a very nice property.
oh, I didn't know if maybe it was just like, because wasn't it abandoned? I thought I heard it was abandoned.
For a while,
Okay.
because clearly after the police got done with it,
Yeah.
it wasn't like it was a hot market, property. It's like, we've
Yeah, I
recovered
just
about
remember
20
hearing it
people
was
here.
abandoned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what they
Yeah.
think happened, and there are reasons that he was never charged for this, but we know that he did it basically. But before he bought Fox Hollow, they found all of these men along Interstate 70, like in ditches and creeks, whatever, half clothed, and they were all, I don't know if I can say this word, rope around the neck. That was how they passed away. And so, yeah, so they already knew they had a problem, but strangely enough, right after old Herb bought Fox Hollow Farm, that stopped. And so they thought, well, I guess, we don't know what happened to the SK, why all these guys were missing. But now, here's the thing, and this is the problem with also the Long Island SK. You're talking about a group of people that the general public and even a lot of the police officers don't really care about. In Herb's case, it was the gay population. And in SK, it was the escorts, and it's like, well, these people live this lifestyle. It was, and that makes me angry, because people are people. It doesn't matter what you do. If someone takes your life, yes, you might be in a risky situation, but that doesn't mean that you have no value. You know what I'm saying? And but that's why the I-70 SK case, it was like, yeah, we know we've got a problem, and we're working it a little bit, but it's not as important as, like, let's say the John Benet Ramsey case, that kind
Right.
of thing.
That's why I never even really heard about it. And when I started checking things out, it was back in like December, January, somewhere around there. We kind of discussed that person for a little bit on one of the shows, and I was just like, whoa, what the hell? Never heard of the guy. Never heard of the I-70 SK or Fox Hollow or anything like that. And
Yeah.
just I think, was it at how long has it been occupied? Because I'm thinking maybe it was back then, I remember, or maybe it was just an old news clip talking about it being abandoned, but I thought it was like getting run
Yeah.
down and abandoned. And
It was at one time. Like I said, definitely because the family had it in their possession for a while, but they actually had another house that the wife and kids moved into. Because what happened, for those of y'all who don't know, it's kind of a long story of how they got to figure out who this was. But after the wife, let them search the yard. They had divorced, okay? She realized, finally, she started waking up, and she's like, you know what? This is not working out, and he might really be a horrible monster. And so he was in Canada. No, wait. He was on vacation with his son, and her and the other kids were at Fox Hollow, and it was kind of some wrangling with the police, but she managed to get the son away from Herb, and legally. So because she was afraid, she didn't want to let too much information be out, because she was afraid. Now here she is, and now they found all these bones on the property she knows, and she doesn't want Herb to know what's going on because he's with the son. So when the police get the son away from Herb goes driving off, and he tells his brother he's on business and he needs some money, temporarily. His brother gives him some money, and he heads into Canada. where he drives around, writes a goodbye letter, and eventually unalives himself with a gun at a public park. And so in his goodbye letter, he talks about his failing business, his failing, his failed marriage, blah, blah, blah. Never, ever does he say anything about these bodies or, what the police had already been accusing him of. So, obviously he was never going to admit to it, but I mean, look, when they find 20 bodies or more on your property, you got some splaining to do.
Yeah. One. You got splaining to do. You got 20 times that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is we're going through this indie archive video here as you've been talking about it. Beautiful home inside, and one thing that's
Except
a weird
for that.
fucking tub.
That's
a weird tub.
That's gross.
That's a weird fucking tub.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm noticing, like, especially downstairs, like all the wood is the wood. Look at the doors and the framing. That right there. Not this stuff. That's an odd fucking bathroom with wood. That's a really odd bathroom. What? I can see mold happening there. What is that? A secret? What the hell is that?
I think that's a closet. Old houses sometimes, and I'm guessing that Fox Hollow was renovated already once, but because the yellow and there's that green tub and the yellow tub, I'm thinking that had to come from the 60s or early 70s. So by the time they bought it, I'm thinking they renovated some but didn't pull that out because, by the time they bought it, nobody was using those colors. But yeah, the outside of their house is actually like an English Tudor style, I believe. And
so many rooms in this house.
Oh, it was huge. Huge. Yeah, so, I mean...
All the utility bills. Oof.
I know. And there's part of the pool, right? Yeah, this is the indoor pool. Herb's playground.
That looks nasty. That had to have been sitting there for a while.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They got these photos in here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. But you can see, and especially imagine back in the 90s, and this was a gorgeous
rain or
house.
shine. Rain or shine.
Yeah.
You can kick it in the pool.
Yeah, with all your friends.
Right.
mannequins.
Dry acid. Wow.
Yeah.
This house, do you know how many rooms are in it?
No, I don't.
Wow, look at all that mold.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe this was when after the family had moved out, maybe after Herb was gone.
When it was vacant for a long, because you could tell by that pool that it hadn't even been touched for a while. Just all the dirt at the bottom.
Yeah. And there's a lot of wallpaper on the walls, and back in the 90s, that was all the rage. People put wallpaper and borders everywhere.
Yeah.
Not today, but
the board in the middle of the wall and shit kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why would border in the middle? Yeah, two different colors. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember when people were doing their houses that way, and back then it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff does look outdated too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really don't know how long it sat on the market. I know that it was on the market for like $2.something million. I think it was like 2.1 million.
Wow.
Because there's 18 acres here. See, look at the outside. Isn't that gorgeous?
Mm-hmm. It is. I love the brick.
Yeah.
I love the brick.
I love Tudor style.
Give me a brick house with a Spanish tile roof. A combo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And see,
that would
my house is like, it's not,
love
doesn't
Spanish
look like
horse.
that on the outside, but mine is English Tudor on the inside of the old part of my
Mm,
house. So, because in the Tudor style
look
used
at
to have
that.
the rounded doorways, but like, you see on the outside where you have the brown boards going straight down, you have like the
Yeah,
whitish background. That's
yeah.
that's the English Tudor part.
Oh,
But yeah, there's
beautiful
some
property.
woods. See, this is the burial ground for a lot of them. There was 18 acres that he bought. This huge house
Wow.
plus on 18 acres.
So would he take them and like bury them, or would he just?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
Uh,
switch this to graphic real quick. So once you see this part go away, you know you can unmute it. But if you're gonna get triggered in any way, please mute for a few minutes. Once you see that go away, you can come back and unmute it. Um, did they? Did he bury him? Did he dismember? Like what?
they found so many bones that I don't know if I think maybe somewhere, and there's a paranormal reason I think for one of these guys, but it was hard to tell because mostly they didn't have like really fresh people there, um, and bones were scattered. So some of them he buried,
Just
some of
laying
them,
on the ground? Oh, okay.
yeah, and he tried to
Buried.
burn some. Some were
Oh,
partially
wow.
burned bones, and he did a lot of yard work. So that's another question. You have to ask as a wife. You just worked all these hours at the store, and now you're spending 6 hours a night out here clearing brush. I don't think so. Anyway,
Mm,
I'd have to
mhm.
wonder out there and one. But now that last picture, there is a garage that has an apartment above it, and that was actually Herb's living quarters. So you tell me why you need separate living quarters, an apartment above the garage when you've got this humongous house. Um, but yeah, so
What?
they're not. Yeah, yeah, that was Herb's.
S-
Yeah, that was
So they
Herb's.
didn't just sleep in different bedrooms. They slept in different freaking houses?
I'm sure there was somewhere they definitely had separate bedrooms in the house, but Herb actually spent a lot of time in the garage apartment that was not at the house at all.
The man
So
cave. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But
Mm,
when you're gonna unalive people and possibly uh in pieces and
mm.
bury them or burn them or whatever, you need your own space, CJ. I mean, you gotta decompress from all that.
Right.
All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you can't
Exactly.
just
Decompress.
right, you can't just walk in the living room where the kids are watching Gilligan. I mean, you've got to have your own space.
Man, how many properties were on the, or how many houses were on the property? Like three, right? Three,
um I think
or
that
was it
is
a pool and two houses?
I think that I don't I think the garage was detached, the apartment, but the
Yeah.
pool was in the house. I think the rest of it
Oh, it
is
was.
just house. Yeah, it was one huge house, and then it had a garage with a garage apartment, and because they rented the new people that bought it rented it out, and that's where they started having all the paranormal or most of
Mm.
paranormal activity. So yeah, but I mean, you can see this is a huge amazing property. So, I mean, as a wife with kids, you've got all this space. The kids are probably spread out, and I don't know. It would take you a little bit of time to get from one spot to the next. So maybe she never really knew where Herb was.
Right. She just knew that the bills were paid.
Right. And I mean, if you're living in that type of culture, or you being raised in that type of mindset, you don't divorce, you don't talk about your problems, okay, And what's she gonna say? He's a good provider. He's good to the kids. She's got everything she wants. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he's a little eccentric and sleeps somewhere else. Worse things could happen for sure. But
Yeah, just a little
I don't know.
different, just a little different. That's all.
Yeah. So yeah. Again, even in her interview, she seemed extremely like an extremely naive person. I'm sure she's not now. Maybe it was partially the shock, you know, if you think your life is one way and then
Right.
all of a sudden the police come to your door and say, hey, this great father and husband of yours, you know,
Yeah.
this
It's
is
like
what he's
Carrie
been doing.
Rawson when the authorities came and told her, hey, your dad's BTK.
Yeah.
It's like what?
Huh? Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna have to look to see if I can find one of those wife interviews. Uh, while we
Yeah.
check this out, I wanted to. This came out 2 days ago. This program, WRTV presents. Um, and there's like 2 or 3 interviews with some of the family members and stuff. But this is literally like 2 days ago, so I'm sure it's going to have everything from the past,
Mm-hmm.
everything all the way up to 2 days. Well, maybe not 2 days ago. I'm sure it took a couple weeks to produce this or whatever, but up to close. Um, and kind of get into everything. Thank you so much for explaining all this, Silky. I definitely I'm gonna reach out to Justice sometime and see if maybe she would like to
Yeah.
hop on some time with you and me for another show about this
Yeah.
case, because I think we could definitely have another members only when it comes to this case. There's so much to it. It's still active. That's the creepy part.
Yeah.
Um,
After all these years.
Right. And I kind of have a feeling with the way that a lot of this DNA stuff has been going, like the Golden State SK and things like that, it makes me wonder, now that they do have a lot of these remains, maybe with all this technology, they might be able to really get some decent DNA out of them. Do the searches like they do with everybody else, and then figure out, okay, there's a relation here. Is this a missing case for this individual, or relation to? I think with thank you, Jinx. I think with the last few years with this DNA stuff, I have a good feeling that they are going to start
Mm-hmm.
to really find out who some of these people are, and to have to, and back in that time period, to have to kind of like feel like you can't do justice to the victim because of uh, repercussions or whatever, because of the time period. you know
Right.
um, they definitely, these people need some answers too, because I'm sure that they live
Yeah.
with a lot of regret, and
Right.
to be in a
Well,
tough situation like that and then have regret, that you could have did more, kind of thing.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
actually how they caught him. Because, and let me answer someone
Oh.
was asking how many bodies. And when I said 20, that's in the neighborhood. To be honest, they do not know because uh, they found so many pieces of bones. And again, if he was burning them, you don't know how much, is left, uh, or where. And then some of them were not buried very well. And so, you have predators, animals, I don't want to get graphic here, but that could happen. But they have so many bones that is the whole question. They know so many
Hmm.
victims, and it's around the neighborhood of 20. Um, but they know there's
Wow.
more. They just don't know how many and who they are.
And
So,
where? 18
yeah,
acres of property is a large area too. What are you going to do?
exactly.
Dig up the whole property? And can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine if you had the availability to dig up that whole property, what you could possibly see? And who says he wasn't going somewhere else either. He says
Right.
he didn't have a cabin out somewhere else in the middle of the fucking wood. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The reason that he got caught is because um there were two families of
Okay.
they knew their sons were in the gay lifestyle. They knew they frequented gay bars, and they went missing. There was a whole lot of missing guys, but two families were like, you know what, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to find out what happened to my son. So they both hired the same private investigator, and his name was, it starts
That
with a
maybe.
V. Vandergriff is his last name. It's a cool detective name. It's not Vern. It might be. It starts with a V. Vandergrift. Anyway, Vandergrift starts,
CJ
looking at
McGriff.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But there you go.
There we
That
go.
should be
Take
your
a
new
bite
name.
out of crime. Taking a bite out of crime.
That should have been your name, CJ.
Right?
Yeah. Uh
CJ
but
McGriff.
yeah. Uh, but anyway, there was this guy. Okay, so Vandegrift is like looking into this, and he kind of understands, and he's narrowing it down. He's thinking, okay, this probably has to do with a lot of these two guys both frequented gay bars. Now they're both missing, so that is the common denominator. And then all of a sudden, one day, the police get a tip from a guy named Tony. I don't know if that's his real name, but that's who he's always referred to as Tony. Tony says that he was at a bar one night, and he starts having drinks with this guy named Brian. They're drinking whatever, and Brian makes some really odd statements about some people have been unalived. Now, this is where the police are like, I don't know whether to believe this guy or not, because even though Brian says this, Tony still agrees to go back to his house. Now, Herb, aka Brian, says this is not his house, he's just the caretaker. And he's like, but the family's gone, so, which, by the way, his wife and kids, kind of like Lisk, would go on vacation for several months at a time, and so there were times that Herb could have free reign there at Fox Hollow. But so Brian says, hey, come back, the family's away, and there's this in-ground pool, and we can do whatever. So Tony goes back to the pool with him, and he sees all of Brian's friends, which are mannequins. They're posed in different ways. Some are in the pool. Some are, hanging out at the side of the pool. Some are at the bar that's down there. I guess they're having mannequin drinks. They're just all having a good time. And,
Right.
he explains this to Tony as, he gets lonely down here, by himself in this big pool. And these are his friends. It makes him feel not alone. Okay.
It would be
Uh,
interesting to see a picture of that, like to see the picture of how his decorations were set up.
there are some somewhere.
Are there really?
I have seen that.
Huh.
Yes, there
I
are
gotta
some.
see
They're
'em.
police pictures. They are police
gotta see 'em.
pictures. Hmm.
Okay.
And there they
Yeah,
are,
if
just
anybody has
chilling.
them, send it to me. If anybody has them, send them to me, please, because
Yeah.
I gotta see this shit. This is
Yeah, I've
this has got
seen
me
them.
crazy.
It is. It looks like a pool party. You can just imagine all the different things that people are doing at a pool party, and here they are.
Are you
just,
serious? Like
Yeah.
it's Home Alone? Like it's Home
Yeah.
Alone, and he's got the fucking mannequins
Yeah.
dancing and all this shit. They're all just having a cocktail, hanging out, chit chatting.
Yeah.
Beach on the
Exactly.
towel on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's
I
just
gotta see that
crazy.
shit.
Yeah,
I
I
gotta see
remember
that.
because I love true crime, and I always have. And I remember when this story broke, there wasn't a whole lot of coverage, but I was like glued. Like, oh my God, what is wrong with this man? But anyway, yeah, so Tony, he goes into the room and Herb explains that these are his friends. Okay, I'm going to tell you something, CJ. No matter how drunk I am, I'd see mannequins in a pool. I'm heading for the woods. Like, I'm going to take off
Yeah,
running, you know,
yeah, yeah,
but not old Tony. So, and here is,
yeah.
I'll try to say this not as graphically. Uh,
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me put that back up there. Hit mute and then unmute when you see it go away. Go ahead, Silky.
okay. Herb was into autoerotic asphyxiation, which means that uh, his preferences, his sexual preferences were, to go partial asphyxiation because apparently it gives you the best high or whatever in that situation. And so it's done by squeezing the two veins here. And I mean, if really you just put your
Yeah.
fingers there, you can feel your airflow being cut off. So he would take a rope and you get to the point that someone passes out because that is supposed to, or almost does. You're not trying to unalive them, which leads me to wonder if Herb never actually meant to do that, if it was just oops, this went a little too far. It happens a lot. There was a case in New York like years and years ago
Yeah,
of a
because
teenager. Yeah.
you're
And this
like
is a thing.
borderline on death. I mean,
Right. Right.
that's
But, and that girl in New York, she actually, passed away. So this was the same kind of thing that Herb was doing. And so he tells Tony, "Oh, I heard this thing about if you take a rope and so he takes, I think it's like the pool hose, and he wants to put it around Tony's neck." And Tony's like, "No, dude, I don't think so." And so Herb has Tony do it to him while he pleasures himself in the pool. And so Herb, after they do this, Herb said, "You've got to be careful because this can be fatal." Again, another warning, Tony, get the crap out of that room. But no, Tony stays. And so then afterwards, Herb wants to put the hose around Tony, at which point, I don't know what Tony's thinking, okay? I really don't. He's either really drunk or really stupid, or both. But he allows him to do it and then realizes it's too tight. So Tony tells the police that he fakes passing out. And so he just goes limp, and Herb is like all up in his face. "You okay? You okay, buddy?" Whatever. And so Tony pretends to be, groggy and all this kind of stuff. And it's at this point that Tony says Herb has now drank and whatever, and he is sleepy. Herb falls asleep right there. And Tony says he gets up, walks around the house, and he sees that there are women's clothes in there, and he sees the toys for the kids, and he's like, "Holy crap." And he goes back down to the pool area, goes through Herb's pockets because he's trying to find his driver's license because he has this gut feeling that this guy's name is not Brian. And he's trying to do that when Herb wakes up, so he doesn't actually see the name. And because it's dark, he does not know where he doesn't know what the outside of the house looks like. He knows the general vicinity, but not really. But he goes to the police anyway. And what he says is that, hey, okay, after this encounter with Brian, he said, "Brian and I are supposed to meet up again at a certain club at a certain time next week." So the police go and they're staking out everything. And, of course, Tony's there, but Brian never shows up. So the police are kind of like, is this guy full of crap? Or did Brian, get tipped off? Did he have a sixth sense that he was being set up? Whatever. And so a few more months pass because they don't know who this is. But lo and behold, one day, Brian shows up at a club again, and I don't know if it was the bartender or Tony. I can't remember. But one of them are like, oh, okay, hey, this is the guy, and they get his license plate number. And that's at the point that the police are like, okay, we're going to the house. So they start questioning Herb, and he's deny. He refuses to let them uh, see the property, to come on the property. And in the meantime, though, this is some months prior, the kids, the fam is outside enjoying the day, whatever. And here comes the dog with a bone, obviously a human
Mm.
bone. And, the family's like, huh? And Herb's like, oh, yeah, I'll tell you exactly what that was. My dad was a doctor. He had an old skeleton. He had it, just for teaching purposes, whatever. He had a lot of things like that. And, they're just buried here. Now, his dad had passed away some years prior. So, like, how did the bones get at Fox Hollow Farm? I mean, did he say, yeah, I just buried them?
Mm.
I just threw them in the yard, whatever.
Right.
Family, again, because Herb was a good dad, family man, whatever. They're just like, okay, Dad. So if we find some bones, we're not going to sweat it.
Wow.
Again, as a wife, the first thing I would think is, I don't remember you saying anything about that skeleton of your dad's.
Right.
I'd be out there. I'd wait till Herb went to work, and I'd be out there in the yard digging up, like, looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that'd
You
be
want the
like
truth.
911. Yeah.
You want the
And then I'd be
damn
out-
truth.
And I'd have, like, the police on speed dial. Hey, I just found a femur in my backyard. Y'all want to come check this out? I don't care, whatever. I mean, it would be one thing if they had a close, loving relationship and she was covering for him. But, after 25 years and no action, I'd be like, please come get this guy.
Right.
He won't touch me, but there's bones, there's body parts in the yard.
He won't touch me, but he'll touch the mannequins next to the pool.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
something's wrong. Something. You read a book on Herb's life, and oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
Wow. What book?
Yeah.
Let us know what book. Yeah. It's so the Tony guy actually survived an encounter.
Yes.
How did he get
Yes.
away? Because Herb passed out and then he just took off, or
I think he just took him back to where, whatever, because, and this is what leads me to believe, and I have to look at Tony's, I think he just left normally because they planned to meet up again, so he didn't, like, run off into the night. I think it was, again, why I think that Herb may not have actually meant to, unalive anybody. Maybe he just wanted this experience, and that's the only way he could find pleasure, and ended up having a lot of accidents. I don't know. At what point do you not look in the mirror and say, you gotta stop? You gotta stop this.
Yeah, but as a child, if you're doing that shit with animals and your parents are making you get evaluations, I tend to think it was part of it, and maybe he let some of the other ones get away because they were favorites.
Yeah,
they were favorites.
Well, I think because Tony acted like this was an okay occurrence, and they did have plans to meet up again, that maybe he was like, okay, this is a safe guy, he's into the same stuff I am. But anyway, so the bones were explained to the family, but after they got his license plate and Herb's denying, then they come to his wife and they're like, look, we want to dig up your property because this is what they found. Herb said, oh, it's a disgruntled employee just making all kinds of false accusations. Do not let anybody in the yard, because Herb was away for, I don't know, on business, on whatever. Herb was not there. So, of course, the detectives gave the wife his cards or their cards, and she's like, okay, whatever. Months pass, and then slowly it starts making sense. And maybe it's just because of that would have to be very traumatic to think that you've been living a lie for 25 years. Um, but that's when she realizes, yeah, their businesses are failing, and it's not a
Mm.
good situation. There are bones in the yard, and now she's realizing, yeah, now that I think about it, we don't really have a normal relationship. What if this is true? Uh,
Blinded by money and security, I suppose.
I guess, and the fact that if he's nice and kind and gentle to the kids, you don't think typically of that of somebody who can do this kind of stuff.
A good
So,
provider, you know.
right,
So you
right,
look past the weird, odd shit
yeah.
because they're a good provider.
Mm.
You
And
know.
again, you've
That,
been married that long, and I think you look past stuff because
yeah.
you just your mind can't wrap around what they're saying, you know,
Right.
until it's had time to sink in, and then you start putting the puzzle pieces together like, oh, well,
Well, yeah,
um
it's easy when the businesses are failing to put the puzzle pieces together.
mhm,
I'm just
yeah,
saying. Oh,
it's
wait,
true.
there's an out?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
There's an out now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't
So
think
I
about
mean,
that before, did you? Sorry.
right. I mean, you're right. It could have been, as long as she was secure and happy. There's no
It don't make
reason to
sense.
question it. Yeah.
It don't make
But
sense.
anyway, this is when she and he had actually filed for divorce, and then she lets cops come onto the property. She gets the cards from the detectives that had talked to her, and she's like, you know what, maybe you should look in the yard. Um, and that's when they start finding the bones, and he runs off, unalives himself, and
Mm.
uh there you go. So things come out, uh like the mannequins. All these little details come out later, and it makes me think that maybe if somebody had hired a private detective earlier, when it was just the I-70 SK, and he hadn't gotten to Fox Hollow. Maybe if the police or the families or somebody was investigating closer, it might could have saved a lot of lives.
Right. Well, and
But
and thankfully he did that to himself and saved potentially many more as well. Unfortunately, a lot of the secrets went to the grave with him, and that's why
absolutely,
he did what he did. But with the technology and the DNA and things that they can do nowadays, there's some hope in the
yeah,
future when it comes to getting answers. And the two families that you were referring to a little bit ago, I think those are the two interviews that I actually have where the families of the victims talk about. Those were from a couple days ago, too. This WRTV did some kind of special and had a whole bunch of content with it. So
yeah,
I think it'll be interesting to hear from those family members, too. Um, is there any, let me see, purposely ignore signs, just
yeah,
and at that time, that speaking of a different time, back then that was pretty damn status quo, uh to get married regardless, sometimes look past certain things because of the security and all that stuff. That was a thing back then as well. I mean, hell, there were even marriages being set up where people, were getting
mm-hmm,
set up to get married because of the security stuff alone.
right.
It was a thing back then. It was definitely a thing.
It
Um,
still is, CJ. I mean, look
well,
around
yeah,
you.
I mean, still, but I mean,
You
but
know,
now there's more independent. There's more independence now with both
yes,
sexes. Back then it was more dependent. I would say it was more of
yeah,
dependent. Now it's more independent. Different time
yes.
period.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously she had her own career, but
Yeah.
it's like a few years ago, went to an Alabama game with who at the time was my significant other. Uh, and we were sitting there, and we're waiting for the game to start, and I noticed this couple in front of us. He was a not too attractive older guy. I mean, not old, but older. Much older than her. Young, pretty, blonde-haired girl, and she was just, all over him, and he had bought her all this stuff, and so I'm a people watcher. I am. I'm gonna look at you if I'm sitting somewhere. I'm not gonna stare at you. You're not gonna know,
Yeah.
but I'm giving side eyes to everybody and watching people around me.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
quiet, but I'm observant of everything. Yeah. I study
exactly.
everything first. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in front of us, and they're, having a good old time. And, because the game hasn't started, I'm focused on them. And after we sat there for a while, I looked at him and I said, let me tell you about these people in front of us. He said, what? I said, he's got a lot of money.
It was obvious, huh?
Yeah. He's like, how do you know? I said, look at him. Look at her. She's gorgeous. Look at him.
Hey, he could have been working Silicon Valley, the
Yeah,
startup.
I mean, he's got something going for him. I'm like, it ain't his looks, and it's not his personality either. He didn't seem to have a whole lot of one. I'm like, yeah, he has got some bucks. First of all, we had really good seats, and they were expensive. I'm like, yeah, he probably comes every week. She's not letting loose at him. But I mean, it's it still happens.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was
Right.
Herb's. I don't think it was, just from what
No.
I've seen of her. But I mean, not in the beginning. She probably thought he was a nice looking guy. He was educated, and they got along, and obviously he wasn't too pushy. So they get married, and she's probably thinking she's setting herself up for a happy, and that's what
Yeah, the
women
future.
did in the 60s. You're talking about, you want a stable home environment, you want kids, and I mean, it was the American dream, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing. Now see, then the paranormal comes in when the new people buy this house, though.
Oh, because there was some other stuff that I had saved, but we can get in. I would like to save the paranormal. I think that'd be cool. Save the paranormal stuff for the next episode, and we can see if Justice wants to join for that one if she's not busy, and have talk about a lot of the paranormal stuff in the next one. Because that's when the new people bought it, when they started. So it was vacant for a while. Then somebody purchased it. Probably did a lot of renovation. Obviously, would have.
Oh yeah.
And then that's when. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and then that's when you're saying the paranormal stuff started to become a thing now. Because honestly, when you look up this gentleman, you see a lot of the videos, like one we're gonna watch, and then you'll see other, like, just as much with the haunted stuff, and I'm just like, whoa. So that's why I was thinking, with it being vacant from before, and then there's all this haunted stuff. I used to do the fucking shit at 3 a.m, going to haunted places all over Ohio.
Really? Did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh.
I 3 a.m, dead time. That's when I would go.
Right.
And so that's why I was like, man, maybe I could go there, because I haven't done that shit in 10 years, but I'm telling you, it's still there.
See,
like,
I love. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I have to apologize, y'all, to everybody, because I am so ADD that in HD, like, words fly out before I even think. So I am so sorry for interrupting. I do that a lot, and I don't mean to.
Oh no, I don't think you're interrupting at all.
No, I love the paranormal. I I don't go out at dead time.
It's the
We'll have
time
a
to
private,
go.
yeah, we'll
That's the
have
time
a,
to go if you're going.
yeah,
I'm just
well,
saying. Don't go at
we'll
2,
have
go
a,
at 3.
we'll have a more private conversation about
Yeah.
this. There's a reason I don't. It's even more private than members only, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Let me just put it this way: I don't have to go out at 3 a.m.
Oh shit. Okay.
So, yeah, there you go. Something you
Boom.
didn't know. Um,
Oh.
so yeah, it doesn't matter to me. But and I love to go on ghost tours, and I don't like to go. I don't care, if you hear sounds. I don't go to capture ghosts or experience that. I love the history. I love to go on ghost walks because I love to know the history of a place. Yeah, I could tell you some
Yeah.
stories, CJ. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I could tell you some stories. I'd have to really, if I ever told them online, I'd have to completely change the names of the places and stuff because I
Yeah.
would dox myself. I would
Oh,
dox
yeah.
myself bad. If I were to talk about it.
Well,
But
you should type it out sometime with, different whatever, and then have me on your show, and then I'll sit there and listen to your stories and shit. I think that'd be awesome. I'll join you for that.
it's
That'd be
pretty
awesome.
interesting. But anyway, yeah, I love to cover the paranormal. That's why when I do my vintage stories and stuff and
Yeah.
crime, I throw in some of that. But I'm not a ghost hunter. I don't go out and talk to whatever's. Like I said, I don't need to do that. But I I am very fascinated by the residue or the residual stuff
Yeah.
and energy
Mhm.
that remains in
Yeah.
places after something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you figure all these people that have met their end at Fox Hollow Farm,
Yeah.
you're going to kind of have to
Yeah.
imagine that there would be all kind of crap in the air, And so I
Yeah,
think
we're
that's
all
what,
made from energy. That's what
right,
it is. That
right.
never
And,
goes away.
mm-hmm. And so, okay, so what I didn't say, I started saying this earlier. The house was on the market for like $2.1 million or something like this. And this is back in the day. And when it finally sold, it sold for like $987,000, which
Mm.
was a lot less than anticipated.
Yeah.
But nobody,
But
it sat there. Nobody wanted.
The renovations had to be more than that. Had to have.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you
Had
gonna
to.
do? I mean,
Right.
if you want to get rid of a property and nobody wants it because it's notoriously, and it's like a lot of people who live in places where SKs or something happened, even if they're not the family, you have.
hmm
You have lookers, you have people that just drive by, they stop, they take pictures. You're always gonna have, and it's the same for people who let their houses be in movies, iconic houses in some
hmm
movies. It's like people just, I've done it. I did it just a few months ago. No, I wasn't in Atlanta. I was on the way to Atlanta, and I stopped to take some video and some pictures of what was known as the Krill House in Stranger Things. It is I would love to go in there. It's so gorgeous. Oh my god, it's so gorgeous. But just the pictures that I took, and there I am across the street. If you're the owners of the house, I would hate for people to just be
Yeah.
stopping by my
Yeah.
house and taking a picture like,
Right. Yeah, it would, and to constantly have it happen too. You
yeah,
because you don't know what the fuck these people are capable of either. And they're coming
right.
to your property. Any
Right.
reality peeps? So I'm gonna check this out. This is Forgotten at Fox Hollow. It's just a short little thing. It's only like, oh wait, it's an hour. I'll go ahead and let it play for a little bit. And if you have to go, I totally understand, Silky. I'll probably end up playing this whole thing where we can watch, 15 minutes, chat for a few, watch another 15 or so. I think it'll be a good just to put it all in perspective and a short program. It's obviously new. It says that WRTV is revisiting this dark chapter in Indiana history to shine light on the renewed effort to identify the unnamed victims.
Mhm.
Thousands of bones and bone fragments were unearthed at Fox Hollow Farm in Westfield, Indiana in the summer of 1996. Investigators believe Herb Baumeister picked up men in bars and brought them back to his home where he unalived them. 8 victims were eventually named, but many of the remains are still unidentified in storage. It's something Hamilton County Coroner Jeff Jellison is working to change. And this is, like I said, from a couple days ago. And there's still, I think when we brought it up on, when we did our show together earlier in the week, that they had just found some more just a few days ago, I
Wow.
think, was that they're still finding remains. So thank you all for hanging out on the members only. Appreciate it. Shout out to Silky's group over there. Appreciate you guys hanging out and checking this out as well. And go ahead and we'll sit back for a few, check out the beginning of this, and we'll chit chat here in a few. This is a program, WRTV, and this is the victims of the Indiana SK, the forgotten at Fox Hollow.
Picking
Whoa.
up the pieces of an Indiana tragedy, like the bones left behind by a suspected killer who never faced justice. Charred, broken, buried, discarded.
More than 20 suspected homosexuals have died violent deaths.
Authorities believe all of the victims frequented gay bars here in Indianapolis.
If they murder one person, they're not going to stop. It almost appears Mr. Baumeister was living a double life.
The suspected crimes of Herbert Baumeister made news for more than 15 years before his name was officially tied to the murders of 17 identified men and boys.
This is most likely the largest mass murder, at least in this state, if not in the Midwest.
10,000 bone fragments unearthed on Baumeister's former property, Fox Hollow Farm in Westfield.
These people were placed on a shelf for 26 years and they were forgotten, and they're no longer forgotten.
Now, a new effort to identify the nameless victims.
I want to give as many people the closure that they deserve as well.
To understand why the extent of Herbert Baumeister's cruelty remains a mystery, you'll hear from some of the people who were closest to the case.
2 women whose families were forever changed when their brothers disappeared.
We talked about every day, and Manuel wasn't calling.
My brother was young and he was innocent. You know, he was an innocent kid, no matter his lifestyle.
A private investigator who listened to the stories and fears of a group thought by some to be on the fringes of society.
We found out real quick that there were a lot of missing people, a lot of missing gay people in Indianapolis.
A man who saw his friends disappear as a killer preyed on his community.
It is part of our gay history. It's a horrible chapter, and not something to just flip the pages and gloss over and go on.
2 former prosecutors who could now look back on the case and its abrupt ending.
And he knew we had the evidence. He knew what was out there. He knew that people were out digging up his backyard.
How could this have happened in our community? How could it have gone on for so long and involved so many people without somebody catching on sooner?
Hundreds of pages of documents paint a picture of an investigation into a man's double life. And reporting from the WRTV archive shows frustration and fear as murders and disappearances remained unsolved.
There seems to be somebody that's attacking our community. This is just the most blatant act of violence against our community.
Sometimes we must return to the past to give it a name.
It doesn't matter what their lifestyle was, who they were in life, how much money they did or didn't have. They deserve to have that final resting place.
Did you have to go, Silky? I'm sorry.
No,
I
I'm
was
still
making
here.
a K-cup real quick.
No.
Oh, okay. I saw people
No,
say
I'm
bye,
good.
Silky, and I'm like, oh no, I'm making a K-cup. Did she say bye? Okay, sorry.
No, I'm still here. I'm just no, I'm listening and making sure I didn't
Okay.
miss anything.
Okay. All right. No, I just zoomed us out so we can get it full screen for a few as we watch this, and then we'll
Well,
kind of hop
okay.
back in and out.
Okay,
Yeah, go
CJ, give me a heads up when you're gonna put us back, which I've got my icon up right now. But give me a heads
Okay.
up because I am just laid out here on the couch and my legs are in the air. So, like, don't just throw me back out there.
Yeah, I'll put in private chat. 2 minutes.
All right.
2 and 2. 2 and 2. Like Chuck Woolery would say.
Yeah,
We'll
put
be
it
back
on
2 and 2.
Discord. Put it on Discord because
Oh,
I
Discord.
can't.
Okay.
Yeah, because the way my light is set up on the top of my it blocks my private chat. I can't even see if there's messages there.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
yeah.
2 and 2 coming
Yeah.
on Discord. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. Appreciate it.
History is still being written today.
They talk about Dahmer. They talk about everybody still to this day on the internet. So yeah, I think people need to know that there was this serial killer.
Stories like this are never truly over, and the next chapter of this story begins in November of 2022. Jeff Jellison is elected Hamilton County Coroner and wastes no time spreading the word about a major mission for his office and scientists across the state.
Blessed that I was presented the opportunity to lead this initiative. I believe I was put in a place to do that. The reason I'm doing this is to give closure. But you also got to understand, I've got a statutory duty to do it. My job, by statute, says that the coroner is responsible to identify the deceased in this county.
I do what I do as a forensic anthropologist out of respect for the decedents. That's my obligation, is to be able to provide them a voice when they no longer have one.
The bones have remained in storage at the University of Indianapolis since being found. Jellison hopes new technology can help them identify more victims.
1996, DNA was relatively new, especially at the local law enforcement level.
The coroner's office decided to organize a group of experts that might be able to address some of the challenges surrounding this particular case. Many of the fragments were burned and were exposed to the environment for extended periods of time.
We have 10,000 remains right now in our hands. We need to get those to laboratories. I believe there's as many as 25 or more people that are represented in those remains. And understand, some of those remains are as small as a fingernail. I am driven to identify those remains, to provide those people, because that's what those remains are. They are people. They're someone's brother, someone's son, potentially someone's husband, and they're sitting on a shelf at a university in a box or in plastic bags or however they're stored. And those folks deserve the opportunity to a final resting place.
They either weren't reported missing, or there's not family reference samples on file, or we just don't have the information we need in order to identify them. And we look at them as being almost forgotten in life and being forgotten in death.
If you have someone missing, please let us know. We'll get a DNA swab from you. We'll get that entered into the missing person database. So now when we start testing those bones or developing DNA samples from those bones, we've got something to compare it to.
I wondered, and I got the horrible news. It's worse, in my opinion, to wonder, because you don't know. If you get your brother or your son's ashes back, at least you got something there if you want to go to a special spot and talk to them. You can't if you don't know where he is.
I don't wish that on nobody. I mean, at least we had some form of closure, that we had something. They never had anything, so I'm sure they're wondering, waiting for them to walk in the door, probably still today, you know, like I did. And that's tough. My name is Debbie Falls. I grew up in southeast side of Indianapolis on Bradbury. It was a good time. You know, you thought you could trust people a lot more than today. We call him Richie. Yeah, his name is Richard Douglas. I think I was like 17 when he went missing. He was eccentric a little bit, you know. He was really smart. He was real tall, you know, real long arms, real long legs. And he was just everybody's friend. You know, he wanted a place to fit in, you know, because he was so tall and so blinky. You can pick any word out of the dictionary and he would spell it forward and backwards. I mean, he was smart. He was a little different. He would stand up for people and he loved people, you know. He was just really a genuine good soul.
I miss his voice. I could still hear him. And he was funny.
Manuel Resendez. He was just a really, really nice, kind person. Manuel, he's number 10, I'm number 11, and 16 kids. And he's the first one in our family to graduate. And Manuel just decided, and he went out there and he worked his butt off and he got his own senior pictures. He played every instrument. He started out with the cornet and went to the clarinet, saxophone, flute. He played the music. He hung with this child. That was his little buddy. And they did a lot of stuff together. He's got a granddaughter now that he never met. And he got things going for himself. And he was the first. He was the first in our family every time. It didn't matter what it was. Good stuff.
For as young as he was, for the little life that he did have, he was a good person. I knew that, you know, he wanted to get married, you know, and I know he had a girlfriend. He never came to me and said, I'm gay, or I'm bisexual, or I'm anything. You know, he never came out to any of us about any of that. There was many years that went by that we had no idea what even happened, you know. We were searching for him. I'm really not sure how he ended up where he was when Herbert Baumeister found him.
He worked at a group home or something like that in Lafayette. He was kind to those kids. He helped those kids and he did everything he could for them. And he came up missing, okay? And people were upset because a gay guy was working at a boys' home. He didn't keep it a secret and they loved him there at work. And people were upset, not even thinking about the fact that he was the victim.
The 1990s, a decade when there was a push and pull to tolerate and accept homosexuality. On one hand, some people embraced the idea and fought for rights. On the other, so many resisted it.
Gays and lesbians say they're making history by celebrating their homosexuality, and they look forward to the day of acceptance.
We're a minority, and we need to stand up, and we have rights, we have love, just like anybody else, and people want to put us down for it, and they don't understand it till they walk in our shoes.
It was a time when roughly a dozen gay bars and clubs in Indianapolis provided a sanctuary and a sense of community.
My name is Derek Teriak. I'm the co-owner of Greg's. It would always be jam-packed. The music was so loud, and it was just so much energy.
The place opened in 1980 on 16th Street. Before it became Greg's, it was known as Our Place, OP's for short.
It was just a place for the gay community. It was just everything you want it to be.
A place needed in a time when people were attacked for being gay.
If somebody goes up and says, hey, queer, and then hits them, they're going to get a stiffer penalty. Now, there's something wrong with that kind of legislation. Those people choose that lifestyle. They can keep it to themselves. They don't need to be promoting to the public.
You didn't want to be. No,
Wow.
you could lose your job like that, or family be disowned. We wanted our identity kept secret. It was very difficult.
But even in these safe spaces, there was danger. OP's was one of several places from where investigators say Herbert Baumeister lured his victims.
According to police investigators, Herbert Baumeister led a double life, but his secret life began to emerge from a growing list of missing men.
He went with two friends and they were together until Manuel left, and that was around midnight the last time they seen him.
You never think it's going to happen to your family. You know, I know I didn't.
We've had approximately 7 or 8 missing people that came through with some commonalities.
My sister called and she was like, Manuel's missing. I said, give him a minute, let him get home. But he was supposed to come over to see Mom. He never did. Then it set in. He'd already made plans with my mom, and he always followed through.
When this happened, we were shocked. We were like, what the hell's going on? But Richie has been known also to hitchhike all the way to California.
Come Monday, when we went over there to the police station, I knew Manuel was gone. He would never, ever just leave and not tell somebody.
According to police, all of the missing victims have several traits in common. Chief among them, alternative lifestyles.
We don't want to think something bad could have happened because we didn't know about the boogeyman, you know? There was nothing like that around our town, even in Indianapolis, you know? No serial killers.
One of the things that we were looking at when we looked at all these commonalities was the possibility that there was someone or several someones who were working together, perhaps eliminating these people from the community.
That whole scenario, the whole thing with him, we had the AIDS crisis going on. So you had to think of, is this person missing because something's really happening? Or is this person gone because of the AIDS epidemic? And no one wants to say why they really are no longer with us.
AIDS spread rapidly among men in the late 1980s and early 1990s. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, by 1994, AIDS became the leading cause of death for all Americans ages 25 to 44, surpassing car accidents, heart disease, and homicide. By Halloween the following year, the U.S. reaches a grim milestone: 500,000 reported cases of AIDS in this country. The toll the disease takes on the body is clearly evident among those withering from the deadly virus. Many victims battling AIDS fell away from social scenes and even retreated from those closest to them.
You had two things going on at the exact same time. It created a lot of confusion, so was it just rumor? You had to think, that's just rumor.
I'm not ashamed that he's gay. That's one of the questions that they asked me, and my sister was telling me in Spanish, don't tell him. She was saying in Spanish, don't say anything about that, just tell him, you know, to look for him. And I said, yes, he is. And she told me later, she was like, they're not going to look for him as hard, which made me feel really bad because I didn't get what she was saying to me. I didn't.
There was frustration. We as a gay community just accepted it, which we shouldn't have, but it is a totally different time.
We never heard from him. You know, it's like months went by and nothing. We had, you know, no cell phones, no paper trail. We didn't know that he frequent any places. We didn't really know his newfound friends.
My mom was just walking around with her heart. I mean, she was literally bent over. Her heart was so heavy, and she didn't know that the rest of her kids were there because she was looking for the one. It was just one of the most horrific, saddest things that I have ever watched and lived.
You think you just call the police and they go out and find them. You know, that's what, you know, that's what you think. You know, we didn't think about hiring a detective or a private investigator.
To find their missing loved ones, the families of two other missing Indianapolis men turned to Virgil Vandegrift After 25 years with the Marion County Sheriff's Office, Vandegrift started his own private detective agency. Along with a half dozen employees, Vandegrift got to work.
I decided that we needed to get wanted posters made up and get them out to the community as fast as we could.
And he really dug deep to try to help us with this situation. It was awesome.
Former Hamilton County Prosecutor Sonia Learcamp had been in office less than a year when bones were discovered on Herb Baumeister's property. Learcamp and former Deputy Prosecutor Kathleen Clark say Vandegrift played a key role in the early days of the case.
Having an independent investigator, especially one that other investigators know and trust, is a fantastic thing to have in an investigation.
I felt like there was a serial killer involved. And with that, I put together a profile of what I thought would be like that we would be looking for.
A lot of the victims were estranged from their families. It wasn't unusual for a lot of them to drop off the family radar for long periods of time. So a lot of these victims, I think, went unnoticed for a while.
Serial killers sometimes pick on not just gay communities, but example, prostitutes or people along those lines that society itself doesn't pay a lot of attention to when they come up missing.
They may have been reported missing, but nope, it wouldn't have crossed their mind that somebody in Hamilton County would have taken them up to their home and perpetrated this kind of crime.
It's just a matter of zeroing in on who.
He was very strange. I don't know what part of them they saw, but I saw a different man. How's that even happen? Like the guy that just murdered your brother, or found to murder him, is right here, and I've been working for him this whole time. That's weird.
Still to come, what Debbie Falls remembers to this day about the hours she spent with the man later connected to her brother's death, and how a would-be victim helped detectives crack the case after surviving a night with Herb Baumeister.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a small pause there. Respect the content creator, the local news, and to take a couple minutes to chat about the kind of the stuff that they were getting to and the time period back then. Again, this is 30 years ago or more.
Yeah.
When you're looking
Yeah.
at it, and definitely, like they said, it's when the AIDS epidemic started to happen. I mean, hell, you can go back to what year was it? Magic Johnson.
Yeah, I think he was around in the early 90s. 92, I think, is when he got diagnosed, maybe.
Yeah, it was like 92 or 93.
Yeah.
When Magic Johnson came out about that. And even back then, it was totally brand new. Back then, you thought that just by touching the same bag of chips that you could get this disease. So there was definitely a stigma. It was called a certain lifestyle disease for a long time. That's how, because of the cases and the lifestyle of the individuals, it was kind of labeled as a certain kind of disease. But when Magic Johnson had a press conference and came out that he had acquired that disease, that at that point, that's when everybody kind of sat back for a minute and went, wait a minute, maybe it isn't just this certain lifestyle disease. Maybe it's a disease that anybody with any lifestyle could acquire. And so
Right.
you're still talking about a time period where there was a lot of stigma, a lot of unawareness. I mean, hell, even that news clip of I don't know if it was a senator or something like that, some government official that was talking, you know, saying like, if that's, you don't need to be out here promoting this and that and this and that. And there was, it all goes with that stigma. I mean, even if you go back to some of the slang on rap lyrics from back then, there definitely was a stigma with a lot of the rap lyrics too. A lot of
Yeah.
the music lyrics had a stigma as well. So um, when it comes to these families being scared, you can totally understand. And
Sure.
um, with the technology, I think really good things can happen. Now, McGriff, that's the Colonel Sanders. I noticed they had a little picture of him there when they were talking about him. So looks damn like Colonel Sanders. I'm sure they're going to get into it. It would be nice though too on the next episode. We kind of watched some of these interviews because I know that was one of them you were wanting to watch too, and we might be able to fit it in this one. But if
Oh,
not, I would
don't
like to.
no. Don't worry about that. I was just sending some, random stuff that I had watched. So no, don't feel compelled to use it. But this one has, some of the family members and stuff, and I think that one did as well. But no, we don't have to go through that. It's
No?
probably going to say the same thing. But, until I listen to that, because it's been so long and I've been
Mhm.
medical for so long, I forgot until they mentioned it what a stigma that, and how much fear there was uh, with the, disease that around that time period. And because I'm just thinking they didn't want their children to be outed as being homosexual, but that wasn't it. I mean, that wasn't just it was the fear of, oh my gosh, I've eaten supper at their houses, maybe I need to get tested, that
Mhm.
kind of stupid stuff that went around.
Right, right. Yeah, not. Yeah, definitely not cool. Yeah, people still thought you could get HIV from a doorknob. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
and especially like, hell, even the NBA players didn't even want him to play after he came back. And they came out, there's NBA players that weren't quiet either about how they
Mm-hmm.
felt, and just that they even thought that his sweaty body bumping up against them would, be a way
Yeah.
to contract it as well. So there definitely was a stigma. If you're not familiar with that time period, definitely just type in 80s and 90s stigmas, and there's
Yeah.
a YouTube video talking about all the stigmas from that time period, and then you'll really understand kind of what they were talking about here in this
Yeah.
first segment. So we'll go ahead and get into this next segment here, and when this segment ends, we'll pop back in and chat. Go ahead. What's up, Silky?
Well, I was just thinking you were telling them to type in that. I was thinking about Google searches, and I just wanted to ask you a question, CJ.
Mhm.
Do you ever
Yeah.
worry what people would think if they saw your Google searches, or is it just me?
Well, I
Because
mean,
when
it
you're looking
depends on
at
what
true
kind of shit
crime,
you're into.
well,
It depends on what kind of shit you're into. You know.
I mean, well, because we were talking about Karen Reed the other day, and people googling, and I got to thinking, I look at a lot of true crime, and then I just, on top of that, I just have a lot of stupid things that go through my head. And I mean, I just Google it and I'm wondering what kind of mess. I can't even remember, but do you ever think if somebody were to investigate me, how weird would they think I am based on my Google searches?
I don't know. Probably just a bunch of YouTube videos, really.
Really? Mine is
Yeah.
questions. Mine is
Why
questions.
do you look yours up?
Oh, yeah. Because, okay,
Do you?
because we do our platform's different. You're using the videos, but I've always been afraid to do that because of copyright strikes. And so I research everything, and then I'll put like little pictures or whatever, or I will talk about it with my notes and tell you, you know, what it. So I'm researching everything, but I'm not playing it for that reason. So yeah, so my Google searches are just, you know, and then too, I work in a jail, and we have a lot of situations that you really don't know. You know, you don't know how that got there, and you don't know what is the toxicity of it.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
On top of all of the SK stuff and the SK
Yeah.
questions. Well, could this happen? Well, let me Google this. Is this feasible? While I'm researching it, could this happen? You know, I'm like, I don't know. If someone were to just take my Google searches, I honestly think it could be bad for me, CJ. It really could.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're like typing out like how long does something last for something
Yes.
something when
Yeah.
you're just trying to do research, but really
Exactly.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna stay away from you, Silky. This is as close as we're getting. Because
You are not the first person to say that.
that's right. Thank you. I'm glad I found out now instead of
Yeah,
further
there
down
you
the
go.
road.
There
Yes.
you go.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yes, Ryan Wyatt, if you guys remember that too, that poor kid.
Yeah.
The poor kid. Yeah, the way that he got treated, you know, for you know, him having it as well. It's the stigma was not fair because it was based off of a lot of assumptions and a PR campaign from the mainstream media, and you know those things become reckless. You know, they really do.
Yeah.
Really become reckless, and you know, talking about rap lyrics and stuff. You know, with the stigma back then, the mainstream media is the one that created the East Coast West Coast fucking rap war, you know, and look how that shit turned out. They have such a powerful influence, and that's why I'm so happy that we're able to do what we do because, you know, growing up and then seeing how things were like fed but then bullshitted to us for so long. It's nice to be able to really report the fucking truth and the
You know
real
what? It
shit.
still happens today. It's
Yeah.
happening right now
Yeah.
as we
So
speak.
it's nice, you know, that we're, you know, maybe people don't even look at it like that, but really, we are able to, because of the community and the community support. That's the reason why we're able to report what we report or discuss the things that we discuss that don't get talked about from mainstream media, or if they do, they get twisted and spewed and all this
Exactly.
other shit. And you're hearing unfiltered, you know, on these YouTube platforms. So it's you know, it's a new age, and I'm excited for it because I think, I mean, hell, how many of us watch the fucking national media anymore? We're watching YouTube shows because that's where the truth is. So
Yeah, that's the one thing that social media, YouTube, and a lot of other platforms as well. Rumble's a good one if you want to go down the rabbit hole, go on Rumble. But yeah, because so many people, you know, think about it, for years and years, hundreds of years, whether it was print until TV came along, people were fed their narrative. And, you know, you might have a voice here and a voice there saying this is not true, but they were always made out to be lunatics. But now you have, with YouTube and if you have the ability to be a credible human being and have a platform that's credible and speak the truth, and somebody is going to listen. And I think that is so powerful and amazing.
we're in the right time because think about this, you know, when dude fucking what's his name? The Paul Revere.
Yeah.
You know, the British are coming. There's been misinformation. I mean, not that that was, but I'm saying you go back that telegrams. You relied on all of the. Just think of the age we're in now. When you think hundreds of years, and it's been hundreds of years, and finally now, in the 2020s, after all of these years, hell, you could go back to the fucking Bible.
Yeah.
After all of these years, now is the time where this is taking place right now. 2020s is where it's starting.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that we actually
It
can have
is.
the truth from now on.
Yeah, cause like you said about Paul Revere. Can you imagine now? Your Facebook would be blowing up. Hey, y'all see a guy riding down the street on a horse? Was that Paul? Yeah, I think. What was he screaming? I don't know. I think I heard something about the British. Does anybody know where he's at? I mean, it would be blowing up, right?
Right.
Then you'd have somebody on a live stream. He's coming. He's coming. What's he saying?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah. DJ McGriff would be there. He'd be like, yo,
Yeah.
where is he at? Where's these British motherfuckers at? Come on.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. I mean, but hey, it's
Yeah,
a great
beautiful
age.
It's a beautiful age, and the time is now, and it's just going to get better. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to be a part of it, and thank you all to the community for because it started off as a seed that I planted, and with all of your guys' water and nourishment, this is able to blossom into what it is and what it's going to be becoming in the future. And without your guys' water and vitamins, there's no way that this kind of truth that I can offer could be out there or even be a force. And so, I really appreciate you too, Silky. Thank you for always being there, and thank you for just being who you are, and just always being there from day one. So I really appreciate it.
In spite of my Google searches.
Right. Yeah, I'm staying far away from this. Is as close
Yeah.
as we can.
But same CJ. You've been amazing. You've been such a great help to help me grow my channel as well, and just being there. You're a great guy. Absolutely. And if anybody wants to disagree with me, then let's fight. We'll take it outside.
And if you're not scared, go look at Pennywise, and then trust me. Yeah, look at Silky Pennywise. You ain't gonna.
Yeah.
No, nope. That'll be another trip, some other time.
Oh my goodness.
Good shit. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we're going to get to this next segment here, and it'll probably be another 15-20 minutes. We're going to watch this next part and kind of go through. It's going to be in a different time era. Still some stigmas, but it's going to kind of be getting out of there and venturing into. It's the middle. It's where the two sides are kind of mixed together before it goes to the other opposite direction of where it started. And so we'll take a pause there when we get to that point, and then we'll chit chat some more. Thank you all for hanging out. Appreciate you. And that's why I love these lives with Silky, because we get the soul and the content in both in the whole show. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. We'll be back, but we're going to be watching this. Thank you.
Just as with the other notorious serial killers that we've read about, he was very good at hiding who he really was.
Investigators know that Baumeister played one role of husband, father, and businessman. But investigators say Baumeister also frequented every gay bar in the city, often taking men back to his sprawling estate.
Even the way he lived and the business he ran contributed to his ability to hide what he was doing.
Him and his wife ran a business. It was a non-for-profit. It was supposed to be. I worked for him. I was employee at the Save-A-Lot thrift store. I sorted through all the clothing and that went out on the front like Goodwill to sell on Washington Street in Indianapolis. My brother was missing at the time. There was nothing fancy. He wasn't distinguished. He was not even verbally communicative. He would sit back there with me and sort through those clothes and not say a word to me. I took a paycheck from this man. He killed my brother. He could have killed me if he would have known, if that maybe I put an inkling to it.
I don't know what his pickup line was, but evidently it was very good because he managed to get several people, and that it took that long.
What was his character to give off to lure these individuals, these young men, for a ride? Or anything, or come party with me, or hang out with me.
What did he say? How did you manage to do that?
How did he convince them? I would love to know more. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
It is the summer of 1994. Over the last year or so, at least 9 men have disappeared from Indianapolis. Virgil Vandegrift and his team are working the case.
I realized then we needed to step up the investigation. We did come by an informant that had been with, at the time, the suspect, and went to his house with him, spent an evening with him.
Baumeister had attracted the attention of Indianapolis police. An informant told them he met Baumeister at a downtown bar and then later went to Baumeister's residence.
In a conversation with Hamilton County investigators in July of 1996, Mark Goodyear describes going to Fox Hollow Farm about 2 years earlier with the man who introduced himself as Brian. Brian told Goodyear the estate belonged to his boss. Goodyear tells investigators they discussed bondage, fetishes, and erotic asphyxiation, a form of choking as a sexual act.
While there, they had an encounter in the swimming pool where the survivor was in the pool, and Mr. Baumeister came up behind him and placed a pool hose around his neck.
While talking to Hamilton County investigators, Goodyear says the man known as Brian pointed out how easily an accident could happen. In his own words, Goodyear says the indoor pool area was set up for an encounter that night. He had everything ready. He was planning on bringing somebody back to the house that night. If it hadn't been me, it would have been somebody else. Eventually, Goodyear says Brian fell asleep while he explored a home that he describes as dusty, hardly lived in, and covered in cobwebs. Goodyear tells investigators, "I do believe that if I had been severely under the influence, that he probably would have went further with me. And if there's a bent human being, that's it. That's one right there." The next morning, Goodyear says he was taken back to where they met.
Herbert reacting.
Overall, I think he was terrified by what happened to him. Mark Goodyear coming forward. We needed to have that person who could at least circumstantially put him as a possible perpetrator.
It shouldn't have had to fall to a potential victim to do the investigation. There's some unfairness in that.
Mark Goodyear first shared his story with law enforcement in August of 1994. He knew an Indianapolis police detective named Mary Wilson was investigating the disappearance of gay men.
Many of the people we spoke with about the Baumeister case consider Mary Wilson a hero. Today, she's retired and no longer speaks about the case. Her daughter says that's out of respect for the victims and the bonds Wilson formed with their families throughout the investigation.
A memo Wilson wrote to her IPD supervisors in June of 1996 goes into detail about all the work she did on the case. She and Mark Goodyear spent months trying to locate the property where he spent a night with the man known as Brian, but they never found it.
All the while, Goodyear says he was trying to figure out who Brian really was. It took some help from his friends in the summer of 1995.
Herb came into the gay bar he was in. He jumped up on one of the tables and yelled out, "This guy's a serial killer, somebody to get his license plate number."
If we hadn't had that, there wouldn't have been any way to link him because, you know, the physical evidence is pretty much gone.
And of course, we traced the license plate number and it came back to Herb Baumeister.
And then the dominoes kind of started falling.
With that key piece of information, Detective Mary Wilson focused her investigation on Baumeister, his family, his property, and his business. Wilson says she approached Herb Baumeister at his business and told his wife Julie Mark Goodyear's story, but Julie insisted it was all lies. Neither would consent to a search of Fox Hollow Farm.
Police say Baumeister refused to let them search his home and property, and investigators say they lacked evidence to obtain a search warrant.
That's until Detective Wilson got a call from Julie Baumeister's attorney.
If anyone at this stage of the game is a victim, I think it would be his wife and his family.
She had a story to share.
Court records show that Juliana Baumeister contacted police through her attorney last Monday and took them to a section of her property where in December of 1994 she had observed possible human remains, including a skull and bones.
Investigators say the Baumeister's son and a friend found the skull while playing in the woods near their home.
Investigators say her husband claimed the skull had once belonged to his physician father, took the skull, and Mrs. Baumeister and her children never saw it again.
Detective Mary Wilson returned to the location of that disturbing discovery and found human bones and teeth.
It was enough to obtain a search warrant almost 2 years after Mark Goodyear first shared his story about Fox Hollow Farm.
It didn't really hit me like how big a story this was going to be. I worked at a satellite office for the Star up in Hamilton County. I just remember this one day getting a report that human remains were being uncovered at this estate in Westfield.
For the past 5 days, the scientists and the sheriff's deputies have worked side by side, excavating a location that now spans 2 different properties along 156th Street.
When I made that picture, it was shot with a long telephoto lens. I remember seeing the woman pull up what looked like a femur or a bone in her hand. And autopilot took over and I was just shooting. And it didn't really sink into me how macabre the scene was until I was editing negatives. And it kind of hit me like, wow, this is crazy.
The investigation has recovered more than 150 bone fragments. Still, investigators have not revised upward their estimate of the number of bodies the site may eventually hold.
Personally, what through my mind is, there are monsters out there, I guess. You hear about serial killers, and here we had one right up here in Westfield.
The search for bones and bodies has drawn interest from police agencies from across the state and the country.
It involved the forensic anthropologist right away, and it was a well-done investigation. It was busy. There were a lot of people. There was some notoriety about it in the legal community. And so there were law enforcement officers, maybe not even people who necessarily were doing anything, but people were out talking. And I mean, I did a lot of standing around. We're out there waiting to see what happens. And like I said, it was hot and buggy. And but we had been out there for a while when, we learned of this creek bed. And so that kind of changed the whole trajectory and expanded what we were doing.
In and among the massive bone fragments, scientists and sheriff's investigators uncovered a pair of handcuffs. While refusing to comment on the significance of the find, it clearly excited the excavation crew, who displayed them like some trophy fish. The handcuffs could yield fingerprints or shed some light on what may have happened to the victims before, during, and after their deaths.
The more we got forensic archaeologists involved in helping us, the more bodies came to light. And it was just a shocking situation.
10,000 bones and bone fragments were recovered in that initial excavation. So most of those bones and bone fragments are not any bigger than a thumbnail. So how many people does that represent? I don't know that we'll ever have the answer to that. But when you consider the amount of remains recovered, it's really a debris field larger than most mass fatalities. Something maybe even larger than some plane crashes.
The search of the farm, which Hamilton County authorities have conducted over the past 10 days, Indianapolis police wanted to do last fall. But they say Baumeister refused to be interviewed or to let them search his property.
Everything happened so quickly. The search warrant was served on the property, remains were found, and then just very soon after that, Mr. Baumeister committed suicide.
There was no APP, there was no BOLO, there was nothing put out for him. You know, they just no. And he went to Canada and he robbed everybody of justice.
The woods have yielded more bones and more bodies. This latest discovery only deepens the mystery about the identity of the victims and the reasons why they never made it out of this gently rolling estate in Hamilton County.
I would consider it bizarre. I mean, you know, we're finding human bones. It's not at a gravesite.
Police had found the remains of 5 unidentified people, spent shotgun shells, and handcuffs when Baumeister was found shot to death in Canada. Police confirm he left behind a 4-page suicide note, but that may not solve the mystery.
I have not heard anything that would suggest it deals with any of the disappearances or the finds that they made on that property.
Chicken shit is the word that comes to mind, and I know that's not very proper, but you know, he's spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and used his intelligence to accomplish what he sought to do, as evil as it was, and then in the end can't even face what he did. Chicken.
The piece of that I am most unsettled with is it just seems that when Baumeister died, shortly after that, everything came to a stop. Would it have stopped if it had been 8 blonde-haired, blue-eyed, 16-year-old girls from Carmel?
Everything he's done points to his guilt, and everything he's done. I mean, you know, the things he did to conceal the crimes, the way he dealt with his family, the way he dealt with law enforcement, all of those things add up to his guilt.
A guy like that, it just seems like it was compulsive with him. I don't know if he might have stopped for a while, but he probably would have just, if he hadn't killed himself, he probably would have at least gone underground.
Everyone was pretty sure that we weren't leaving some serial murderer on the loose, but it really left no recourse for the family.
It took days to unearth the bones, but it took months to identify the victims found on a rolling horse farm in southern Hamilton County.
Baumeister's story had just popped in. It was breaking news, and I was sitting at the corner of the bed, and I swear on everything I love, that TV zoomed in. I mean, it just came to me while they were talking and stuff, and I knew my brother was in there.
By the dates on them bones, you know, the estimated time of death, it wasn't long after he went missing that he was already gone.
Sheriff's investigators identified 4 victims, all young to middle-aged males. They include 23-year-old Richard D. Hamilton of Indianapolis, 35-year-old Manuel Resendez of Lafayette, reported missing 1 week after Hamilton disappeared.
August 11th of that year, they come knocking at my door, and they told me that they had found him. Part of his jaw was found in those remains that were found in Baumeister's property. And Baumeister had killed himself.
your brother's missing. The man that you're working for killed him. You know, you took a paycheck from him, and it was just guilt. I mean, just so much absorption of guilt that I felt from that. I mean, it took years to find him, to find out what happened to him, for the testing, and then to get something back and have a service. It was years. Years. I don't know if I could mentally take it if we didn't have something. I mean, all we had was a couple bone fragments, you know, and some teeth. He was buried in a baby casket. Yeah. I was pregnant with my daughter when we got to bury him.
I don't know how to describe it. Horrible. And I know it had to be horrific for my mom. That was her baby. When Manuel disappeared, he took a big old chunk because, you know, she ended up dying in 94, or he disappeared in 93. So she ended up dying, and she asked me, while she was in the hospital, she asked me to, you know, she said, bring my gown and bring me some slippers. And I said, okay. She said, hey. And I said, what? She said, bring Manuel to me. I said, okay, Mom, you want me to bring your slippers and your gown, and you want me to bring Manuel? I'll be here in the morning. And I turned around and I was like, I just started bawling because I didn't know how I was going to bring him. I knew where her gown and her slippers were, but, you know, she died later on that night, so she found him.
Still unidentified, at least one or more bodies, and still unknown a cause of death of each victim. Sheriff's investigators also want to know, too, if the person responsible for these deaths had any help.
I still feel hollow from it. That there are these people out there who will never get their day in court. I mean, I learned early on that you don't get a lot necessarily from a verdict where someone's convicted, because it doesn't undo the crime.
Nobody stayed with it. They just, okay, we got these bones. What are we going to do, leave them there forever? And I really believe that, you know, they would have remained there without an effort.
To this day, no one knows exactly how many people Herbert Baumeister killed, making it an even bigger challenge to identify his victims.
His name might not be as recognizable as people like that, but I think his actions certainly parallel, if not takes him to the forefront. He's in that league. He may be the quarterback of the team.
Based on remains and reports of missing men, investigators believe Baumeister may be responsible for 25 deaths.
Wow.
But for 16 years, no one could connect him to the crimes. And for a time, he wasn't the only serial killer at work in the same part of the country, targeting young gay men.
In the past couple of years, at least a half dozen local men have been found dead in rural areas surrounding the city.
And we'll go ahead and pause it there to take another short break. Yes, heart goes out to the families, and thank you for joining, Michelle. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate you hanging out on the show. And,
yeah, Michelle's awesome.
I apologize it's taken me so long, but I will be, I will be reaching out this weekend. If not this afternoon, later on, I'll definitely be reaching out because I'd like to set up something with Silky and Michelle too. I'm just not exactly sure at this moment what the next week and a half or so week is. It's still, I'll have some more decisions what's going to be taking place in the next week coming up here this weekend. And so after that, and once I have a really solid idea, then I'll be able to make a show where we can discuss that, because I definitely want to. Silky, you said you were having a show, was it Monday? Is that when
Yeah,
you're having a show?
we're shooting for about 3 or 3:30 Central Time. Uh
Okay.
and I'll probably have to keep it at about an hour and a half because I've got something to do. But I had used some audio in the last, and it's got to be that I got kind of. It wasn't a strike. It was kind of like a warning. You can't do this
Mm-hmm.
kind of message
Mm-hmm.
from YouTube, which should not from Michelle's case, which should not have. It was a police interview. It should not, and audio only. Um, I don't know why. Maybe that's why it wasn't a full strike, but basically,
Do me a
whatever.
favor. Send me the video.
Whatever.
Send me the video, and I'll take a look at it, and I could probably give you an answer of why. But honestly, and if you want to take a screenshot of the email and send it to me, there's slaps on the wrist that you can get left and right.
Yeah.
And so it might have been one of those things where it
It
was
could have
just a
been.
slap on the wrist. So, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been, but I was gonna do some more audio tomorrow. We were supposed to go live tomorrow, but it's like 12, 15 minutes of audio, and I'm like, okay, I just got a warning from YouTube, or whatever. So I don't know. So I thought,
Well,
let me give it a little bit longer and try to do something different for the show instead of that.
Well, another thing that helps is hear this space age funky beat that I always play in the background. The
Yeah.
reason that I've always played the space age funky beat is because that also helps with avoiding the copyright stuff because you're actually not playing
Oh.
the pure audio. There's an alteration to it. So having that alteration and a little bit of music in the background, it's good for the people to listen to while they're hearing us, but also it helps protect you in some copyright instances as well.
Oh, okay. All right. And YouTube has a lot of stuff that you can use that's copyright free. So maybe that's what I'll do, Michelle. Maybe I can use that audio, and maybe I just have to remix what I've been working on and have it ready for Monday. That sounds like a good idea.
I think like StreamYard has its own. This is a StreamYard song that I play in the background. So under your brand, all the way at the bottom, just play music, set it at about 10 or 12 for the volume level, and then go ahead and play your audio, and you probably won't have an issue, is what I'm thinking. Send me the link for sure, and I'll take a look at the video, and I'll look to see the channel and all that, and kind of look into the background. But I really think it's probably because maybe there wasn't some music playing, and it's the pure file.
Yeah.
It's not,
It is.
So the music does also count as commentary in some instances. So, yep.
Okay.
So yeah, try it out. Yeah, StreamYard's got plenty of songs on there. And if you want, this one's called "Feeding the Ducks."
You know what? I always wonder. I just thought you played the music in the background because it was, a cool background music when people were talking, but I didn't know that was the reason. So
yeah, right from the get-go, I'm like, okay. Because I started looking up because I didn't want to get, if I'm going to put in all this hard work, I'm not going to let something like that or some kind of music affect my channel, So when I first started it, I was like, okay, where can I get copyrights? Because it was a big thing. The whole copyright movement had started a couple years before that when it came to content creators and music. And so I just wanted to check it out and make sure, because I definitely didn't want to start putting in work and then all of a sudden it just go away because of freaking music. So that's when I was like starting to look through the StreamYard stuff, and I'm like, well, shit, I'll just play this at a low level, and I'll always be good no matter what. Yeah.
See, back when I started, and I've always had a paid subscription to Canva because I use Canva for my thumbnails and stuff. They make it so easy, and they also I did all my videos, lots of my transitions and stuff like that. My videos I did in Canva before I got CapCut, and I paid for it. That's the thing, is you're supposed to be able to use it. And nobody ever said anything until I got monetized. Then I got I got a long list of emails from YouTube saying, you can't use this. This is not monetized. This is not monetized. And I'm like, or somebody
Oh
else is
wow.
monetized, but somebody else is getting your money because you use 16 seconds of a intro that this
Yeah.
music
Oh yeah, I
belongs to
still
this
get that.
person. But
Yeah, I
here's
still
the
get
thing,
that.
CJ. It's like I paid for this. It's not like I took this free from Canva. I pay to use this music, but
Right.
YouTube said no, we can't
No.
monetize this
Yeah.
video. And
Yeah.
so I had to go back, and a lot of my videos now are just blank, no music in the beginning, which
Well,
sucks.
and that's why I don't use a lot of. There's some content creators that I love, and I don't show it because the music that and then they have every right because they pay for that right, but I don't pay for the
Right.
right for that to be broadcasted, and so it really it gets to be a complete headache when you're dealing with copyright issues because literally you have to go mute it or clip it out. It takes like 2 hours to read program or download or whatever, and then after that you might have 2 or 3 more after that you gotta, so you're literally taking up a day and a half for one video. So yeah, I really like, I can give you any kind of advice, like with
Yeah.
the only thing that I really ever have to deal with anymore, honestly, is because I use a lot of local stuff, and that really helps
Hmm.
too, local news. Um,
Yeah.
but honestly, like the intro music, the the karaoke or something,
Hmm.
that's the stuff that I'm getting slaps on the wrist now.
Yeah.
And to me, that's no thing if I got to mute that out because it's just part of the intro or whatever. But
Right.
it's been a lot of trial and error. Like the last thing I want to do is lose my freaking channel. So I'm like doing all sorts of
Exactly.
crazy stuff. I never knew about the thumbnail stuff because I mean, and I feel bad, but once I get this more time, I'm gonna be definitely learning different programs to use for the show. Definitely learning the thumbnail shit because my shit, it's just thrown together that I do. I know it's nothing special, but I never knew about the copyright stuff with the thumbnail stuff. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. That you can get
Yeah.
copyrighted for thumbnail stuff too.
Oh
It is.
yeah.
It's very complicated. You
And
almost need a. Go ahead.
oh God, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Here I am
No,
interrupting.
I'm just
Well,
talking. No, I'm just talking. Go ahead.
well, I mean, that's kind of, there are so many things. Before I started my second channel, when I started my first channel, I didn't know what the crap I was doing, but I really didn't do anything wrong. But when I started my second one, I meant for it to get monetized, and I studied so much on building a YouTube channel in the beginning. And there's a ton of great people out there that can then videos that can help you do that. But I've honestly, since I've been monetized, I've learned so much about what not to do. I've thought about just doing an ebook for people who, because I know so many people that watch live streams and our channels, like we watch other people's channels, people watch our channels, and they may not be monetized yet, and they may not know. Like there's a ton of things I could say, okay, from the get-go, do
Hmm.
this from the get-go, and
Hmm.
don't do this, and then you're gonna have to be aware of this. So really think about it before you even start a channel. I mean,
It's a lot to learn too. It's a lot to
mm-hmm.
learn. You definitely have a lot of stuff coming at you where you don't even have any experience. So a lot of it is on the fly,
Yeah.
uh, a
Or
learning
from bad
process.
emails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That's been a constant ever since the show started. People critiquing and telling you how to run your own show. And I got
Yeah.
a son that works in this or went to college for this and he does this. I'm like, okay. Like, this is my intro. I like to say hi to everybody. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of other shows out there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
I
damn.
mean, yeah, there are a lot of things, and I think people don't understand, if you're gonna start a channel, and you really want to work that channel, and you really want it to be either a full-time job or you want it to be monetized and stuff, you might as well just kiss your social life goodbye for a while,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
because especially if you're working a full-time job and doing this, like this is your life. And so you better be sure that YouTube is what you want to do because, you know, it's
Yeah,
going to
you're
take
either
everything.
committed 150 or 0 is where your commitment has to be um,
Exactly.
when it comes to doing what we do, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
So, with this Herb case, now they're kind of transitioning from the early 90s to the late 90s. They're kind of getting into the DNA stuff. DNA is starting to become a really, OJ was the case that really highlighted the DNA to the mainstream. And then, which was brand new to everybody. But then, as the 90s went on, then other cases started to use this DNA technology, and it just kind of took off from there. And so now this is the part where Herb starts to go, oh shit, now the
Yeah.
technology is starting to catch up, and I'm starting to kind of freak out a little bit because uh, uh, these things ain't so easy anymore to just go.
Right.
And also, the stigmas are transitioning too. And so, a lot of people are, not a lot, uh, uh, a number of are starting to kind of transition into coming out, and things are starting to be a little more accepted in certain areas and things. Not that the
Mm-hmm.
stigma went away, the stigma was there, but that it started to kind of transition. There was a lot of social movements going on in the 90s, a lot of protests, a lot of peaceful protests. There was a lot of protests going on, social, equalities and things like that, gender equalities. And so it was really when that kind of stuff started, and the stigma, complete stigma, that's what I was saying, where they kind of start intermingling before then it goes to uh, the other direction, where it is accepted, it is talked about, it is, the stigma may be there, but it's in very small pockets or whatever when it
Yeah.
comes to the world. So I always wondered why the Protestant didn't try. I don't know. And it's like, why even haven't, when it comes to the glove, wouldn't, why wouldn't you just get the same make and model that's not soaked and shrunk, you know? Like,
Yeah.
this is the right, yeah, this is the right glove. No, you can kind of fool around with it, and, leather
Yeah.
and drenched glove. Hell, leave it out in the rain for one night and then try and stick your hand in it
Yeah.
and then see what happens. You're going to be fighting to get it in. It was just a show, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
the
crazy.
OJ case was that case that really highlighted the DNA, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think now he's at the point where he was like, "Oh shoot, they're kind of starting to catch on a
Yeah.
little bit.
And
Things are
they said
starting to
something.
happen. Things are starting to slip up."
Yeah. And did you hear? I didn't realize this. Um, in this part of it, it said that they found a pair of handcuffs. I don't remember if I've heard that. It went right out of my brain. So they are excited about possibly having a partial print or fingerprints of maybe one of the victims on there, maybe some DNA. And I'm like, yeah. Well, if here's the thing, because earlier I said maybe he didn't mean to, like maybe these were accidents, maybe this was just part of what
Hmm.
he was into. But if there are handcuffs involved, I'm gonna say no at some point. And I think some of the people in chat had said it earlier. It may have started out an accident and then at some point, but definitely, if there are handcuffs involved, I'm saying you are intentionally unaliving someone.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, when it came to OJ and the gloves and arthritis, he was told to not take his arthritis medication a couple weeks before that was coming up because the defense
Ah.
knew they knew that that was going to be a tactic they might pull. And yes, your
Wow.
arthritis in your knuckles swells up, and so it would make it a lot more difficult to do that.
But
All
wasn't that
right.
a dramatic moment in that
Oh, of
case? I
course.
remember watching
It's a
it. I
show.
had,
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
show. I mean, you could
and
see him like,
yeah.
come on, bro. Like,
I remember watching that live, and it's like, oh my gosh, he must be
yeah.
innocent, right? Even though you've got all this other evidence. It definitely, that one thing alone, in my opinion, is what gave reasonable doubt.
And Mark Furman.
Yeah, and Mark Furman,
The
absolutely.
audio interview that he did with somebody that was writing a book.
Right.
That too, mixed with
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it was that's why the LE got to be on the up and up when they're doing these investigations. Moscow. They got to be on the up and up because shit like this will happen.
Yeah.
Convict like person that I mean, obviously he wasn't convicted, but we all have our opinions too, and it's considered
Right.
speculation. And I just speculate that he did do the crimes, and I always felt that he got away with it because of Furman and the glove show. The glove show was just the cherry on top of the ice cream. The ice cream was Furman.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
That's what it
right.
was. Yeah,
But you know what's crazy to me is that Nicole had said
that too.
that her prediction is he is going one of these days he is going to unalive me and get away with it. And Nicole said that, and then it comes to pass. That is a little weird, eerie.
I think it'd be really cool in the future where we could have like a OJ members only show, Silky,
Yeah.
and we could discuss all the different theories and then see what everybody thinks what the theory is that they think took place, because there's a lot of different theories out there when it comes to this
Yeah.
case. Still, there's like 4 or 5 other possibilities that you're like, maybe.
I mean, yeah, because it's like now I look at the evidence with a completely different eye than I did back in the day. But even looking at that and saying, yeah, there are, even for me, there are several things that I look at and I'm like, yeah, he seems guilty, but this and this doesn't add up, or this is a
Right?
viable, because that's my
Yeah,
mind. It's always the hamster wheel turning up here.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like,
Same here.
so it be a possibility? Yeah, you're right. There are some
Yeah.
interesting theories, and you have to go, it's a possibility.
Yeah, and I'll do some digging for some content, and I'll make sure that we won't get flagged for any of it. I'll use content I know we'd be cool with, and because everybody sometimes, even if you pause it, like literally, if you this is why I don't do some shit, because literally, if you're gonna get in trouble for like doing commentary, you literally have to pause that shit like a minute and a half, and then talk for the same amount of time. And so if you're trying to watch something that's 20 minutes, well, you better set aside a fucking hour. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry, when you're pausing it and talking and pausing it and talking like that much, you're gonna lose interest. You know what I'm saying? That's why I
absolutely.
like that's why I like playing these videos where we can chill back for 10 or 15 minutes, let all that shit soak in, have a little bit of discussion, and we still have all that shit we soaked in. It's not little bits and pieces of it, and then we
Mm-hmm.
gotta go, wait a minute, did this, no. So that's kind of why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'd be a good show in the future where we have a OJ
Yeah.
case show, and we kind of talk about all the different theories and then put a poll out there and see which one wins.
Yeah.
Be
OJ in
interesting.
2023. How would it go
Right.
today?
I'm gonna did he do it? I'm gonna write that. I need to write that down so I can keep that. I need to get like a planner or something for future
Me
shows, because
too.
like I come up with these damn ideas and then I forget because I have so much other shit in my mind, Like,
Same.
damn. It's
Same.
like, damn. Yeah, we need to do
Yeah.
that. No news on Manhunt? Okay. All right. Well, let's get into this. Let me see. We only got maybe 12 minutes so here. And I think the
Okay.
14. And I think the family interviews, the two that I was talking about, I think it was included in this program. So I don't even think that we'll have to watch them. But it's been a great show. Appreciate it. We'll watch the last 15 minutes. We'll chit chat for a little bit, say our thank yous and appreciations and our love for the community. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing after this is over. I might be going live for some manhunt coverage or something. But we'll kind of figure that out after this is over. But thank you again, Silky, for hanging out. Always appreciate it. We need to do way more shows together than we do already.
Yeah, we do.
So, yeah. Hopefully I'll be having a lot more time here coming up, and I can go around your schedule when it comes to the shows and still do all the stuff that I need to do. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, Silky, day one supporter, still day forever, and I appreciate it so much, Silky.
Absolutely.
I really do. You're so awesome.
Same.
Please go sub to Silky if you're not subbed. I know most of you are. But if you're not, definitely go sub. She's got a lot of great short content. That's one thing I don't have is the short content. She's got a lot of great short content over on her channel. Definitely go sub. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play. We'll watch the last 15 minutes and then we'll chit chat and end the show. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a great show, great vibe, great atmosphere. It's been a beautiful time today, and I appreciate everybody so much.
Strangled, 2 stabbed, others with no determined cause of death.
The bodies began turning up in 1980. Victims between 14 and 26 years old, strangled or stabbed, left in rural areas across the state. Local police quickly honed in on commonalities among the victims, leading to media coverage like this.
For most, if not all of the murder victims, this time of night and these places in downtown Indianapolis were part of their lives. They were known hustlers, young men and boys who walked these streets selling sexual favors for a price.
Leaders in the gay community spoke out early about the way these victims were being portrayed.
The focus was not on the tragedy of this boy's death, but the focus then became to identify what they claimed was the gay community.
The media frequently either contributes to our invisibility or contributes to the notion that we are extraordinary insofar as our lives are concerned. They tend to see us only in terms of our sexuality.
In May of 1983, local police departments met with the FBI to compare notes on the murders.
One of the methods they will use to try to link these cases is a technique known as psychological profiling.
Involves is looking for psychological evidences of the base motivations of the perpetrators.
Still, they couldn't officially determine whether the cases were connected.
There have been a couple of bodies. The method of the killing is different in several of the cases, so the similarities really aren't that close.
Frustrated, members of the gay community begged investigators to let them help.
We have tried to do everything within our power to let them know, including sitting in meetings with them, that we are available, we are willing to help them on these cases, and to date, we have not been allowed to help in the least.
We might be able to educate them towards the gay community, and they might be overlooking clues because of their ignorance of how the gay community works.
Then police got an early lead on another possible victim, 22-year-old Michael Riley.
Saturday night, he partied with a friend at 2 Broad Ripple night spots, leaving the Vogue at 2:30 a.m. with a stranger who promised to give him a ride home.
On this particular case here, there's something strange about it. After talking with the parents, this is not your normal, typical runaway report or missing person or whatever.
I hate to say it, but I think something happened to him. Or he'd be here, or he'd let me know where he's at.
8 days after he disappeared, Michael Riley's body was found in shallow water under a bridge in an isolated part of Hancock County. There were bruises on his neck. An autopsy later determined he had been strangled.
I think anytime you find this many victims in this short period of time, you have to assume that they're related to some degree.
By June of 1983, a task force representing investigators from 9 counties, local police departments, and state police began digging deep into 8 of the cases.
But investigators leave a strong impression that the task force will be operational for several months, if not a year, at least until all the leads have been exhausted or the murders have been solved.
A tip led the task force to a man named Larry Eiler, originally from Crawfordsville.
Eiler's arrest in Illinois for a similar murder there was secured mainly by the work of the Indiana investigators. But for their own cases, they have just circumstantial evidence. A lot of it, but still just circumstantial.
The task force questioned him, but they had no grounds to hold him. So they had to release Eiler.
Months later, Eiler was arrested again.
August 21st, 1984, a young boy named Danny Bridges is found in a dumpster behind the apartment where Larry Eiler lived. He was charged with the murder of Danny Bridges, and then he was convicted and sentenced to death.
With Larry Eiler in prison, the task force eventually ended. But the work of the serial killer known as the I-70 Strangler continued. By 1990, investigators in central Indiana and now Ohio are once again looking into the murders of men with ties to the gay community.
Law enforcement officials hope that the latest murders do not stump them for as long or claim as many lives. For the record dating back to 1985, 5 bodies have turned up in Ohio. The latest corpse remains unidentified. All the victims were strangled and all hailed from central Indiana.
Authorities believe all of the victims frequented gay bars here in Indiana. In August of 1991, the last victim of the so-called I-70 Strangler was found. Herb Baumeister and his family moved from the northeast side of Indianapolis to Fox Hollow Farm 5 months later. The killings seemed to stop while men continued to disappear and eventually turned up somewhere else.
Turned earth at the farm has turned up more than 150 bone fragments, some of them charred. Shotgun shells and a pair of handcuffs were also among the buried bones.
The investigation will move from the farm to the laboratory, where scientists will need 4 to 6 weeks to identify the sex of the victims, to perhaps determine their cause of death, and to bring some closure.
The remains of 11 individuals were found at Fox Hollow Farm. 8 have been identified. Richard Hamilton, Manuel Resendez, Alan Wayne Broussard, Roger Allen Goodlett, Stephen Hale, Jeff Allen Jones, Johnny Bayer, and Michael Kieran. 3 remain unidentified.
This is an open population, meaning that there are some estimates of how many individuals went missing at that time, but we don't know for sure.
I still got 10,000 remains sitting at the University of Indianapolis. We believe there's as many as 25 or more people that are represented in those remains. The fact that he did die early on in the investigation that kind of focused things really away from him.
The FBI continued putting the pieces together after Baumeister died, and by 1998 confirmed that he was responsible for killing some of the men and boys found dead in rural areas.
Tonight, the case is closed on 9 more victims, all believed to have had deadly encounters with Herbert Baumeister between 1980 and 1990. Police have witnessed for 15 years. He helped draw this sketch in 1983. Now, police believe the man in the sketch is Herbert Baumeister, and the man with whom he left the Vogue Theater in May 1983 is Michael Riley, another victim.
Will we ever know? Will this investigation ever end? I don't know.
Next, the one to its final chapter, and it's a move you can make.
I miss his voice. I could still hear him. I just hope nobody ever has to experience that, the unknown is really terrible.
There is danger in the unknown. It's the very reason why, and to other innocent.
I think people need to know that there was this serial killer.
It is part of our gay history. It's a horrible chapter, and not something to just flip the pages and gloss over and go on.
This is a piece of history. This is most likely the largest mass murder, at least in this state, if not in the Midwest.
People need to be careful, and they need to, just because somebody's nice to you, that don't make them your friend. Don't go with these people.
You don't know what people are capable of doing.
I'm a firm believer history repeats itself. May not be the exact same time period, won't be the exact same person, but history repeats, and it can happen again.
It's not just a couple deceased individuals. It's many individuals. I think that's worth telling the story, because these people deserve to have their story told.
The search for bones and bodies has drawn interest from police agencies from across the state and the country, and it has drawn interest from Indianapolis police, who have more than 100 active missing persons cases.
When Baumeister died, shortly after that, everything came to a stop. It was a different climate in the middle 90s. I think some people looked at this in this county, in Hamilton County, conservative Hamilton County, and said, suspect's dead. These are gay men from Indianapolis. Why should we do anymore?
We're learning more about the process to identify the remains of more than a dozen people found 26 years ago on the former property of a notorious serial killer.
No longer forgotten. That sign hangs there for a reason, is to remind us every day that these remains are people. And for 26 years, nobody did anything. They were forgotten. That's not right.
I, as a sister, I cried really hard for my brother, but I watched my mom, and that's why I keep saying it's going to be good news for the mothers that are still alive, because this has been 30 years.
My mom had to pay, to get, some of the bones tested to find what were of my brothers, so we could bury him. And there was people in there with brown bags that didn't have nobody picking them up.
Closure for two sisters years after their brothers disappeared. It's not enough to stop their grief, bring back their loved ones, or answer the unknown questions surrounding Herbert Baumeister. But our questions now focus on the unnamed victims. Who were they? Do their families have the closure they need?
Even if you don't want to take the remains and bury them, even if you don't want to have anything to do with the whole situation, just know. And let the person be identified. Don't be a John Doe. Because I could have a friend there and not know it.
It's really important that any family members that had a loved one go missing in the 80s and 90s provide family reference samples.
If we do not have family members of people that were missing during that time come forward, our investigation is going to come to a halt pretty quickly. We have to have comparison samples.
We need to make sure that we are attempting to identify every fragment in order to identify every individual and be able to provide as much of that individual as we can for the family members to have some closure.
I hope they get at least peace of knowing that they have something of their loved ones.
I think they need to go home. I think that there's mothers like my mom that has went to heaven and have found their child there. But the ones that are still here need their babies home.
37 additional.
Wow.
And I'll go ahead and leave that phone number up while we sit here and chit chat. That way that'll be displayed. as we end the show. 37 additional. That's crazy. And how many more?
And I would, again, I've said it before, but if you have a missing family member, and maybe you weren't from Indiana, maybe they were, maybe they were just traveling through, especially in the 80s when it was the I-70 SK, if somebody was going en route, what is it going to hurt to say this could potentially be? I mean, yeah, you do have to give a DNA sample, which, I'm just saying, I don't want anybody being able to clone me.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving a DNA, but I don't have missing family members. So, but,
Right.
I'm just saying, but look,
Right.
that kind of stuff freaks me out.
Hey, I'm just as skeptical about it.
But, if you have a missing family
Oh,
member.
I totally feel you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I don't know, this
Yeah,
whole
it's,
AI stuff. What's scary, CJ, is that even more scary than the DNA, but you could use a combo of AI. I mean, they could actually make you, make an AI generated video of you committing a crime. And then if they had DNA from hypothetical, because, here is me, the conspiracy theorist, and the paranoid person. So if you have a DNA sample, with 23andMe or the many different companies, somebody has a sample, somebody does an AI, generated video of you committing a crime, like, that's scary. That's really scary.
I mean, hell, there's a thing that Joe Rogan just somebody had totally like made a video with his voice, his tendencies in his speaking, and totally made him like go, yeah, I promote this product. I'm Joe Rogan and I promote this product. And he was, yeah, and it looks just like him. It's crazy what they could do with AI now.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I had somebody using 1996 computer software that made an edit of my face saying something on YouTube, and it wasn't even my fucking voice. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was a few weeks ago. There was somebody that put out a video that took a clip of my when I was talking in an intro or something saying hello to everybody and put somebody else's voice over my lips moving, and they made my lips move with that. But it was a horrible edit though. I mean, it was like 96 software. It was totally obvious. It wasn't nothing like, wrote what happened to Rogan. But yeah, the shit, it's crazy what they can do when it comes to AI, and then you mix that with the DNA shit and boom. What are you gonna say? Oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Right.
But we've got your DNA there.
Right.
And here's the video of you doing this. Yeah, that's oh God. It's horrifyingly scary. On one hand, I love technology, and it's like, it's great. We just talked about that. We're in a great age, but on the other hand, it could be devastating. So
dangerous too, yeah, for sure.
Something else to keep you awake at night, at 3 a.m., ghost time when you're awake, because, they say, and here's the thing, I know you know this, CJ, if you've done paranormal, they say that, if you wake up, especially around 3 a.m., this is, I've heard it called ghost time, and there's something else it's called, but anyway, it's because, like, there's a presence in your room watching you sleep, and, like, but and so that's why you wake up
Yeah,
at
you
3
can feel it.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how often I wake up at 3 something in the morning, and it doesn't matter if I went to bed at 11, at 8, at 1. I mean, at 3 something, there's probably going to be a reason that I am awake, and I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, you dadgum ghost, why can't you let me sleep? Especially here at this house, come on, y'all, can't you haunt me some other time? Dang
I
it.
just need a little bit of rest, y'all. Please. Quiet down for a little bit.
Exactly.
Give Mama a break.
It,
Give Mama a break.
yeah, we should really do something. We're coming up on spooky season, which to me,
Yeah.
living here, every day is spooky season. But for most people, it's coming up. We should do some paranormal, a paranormal
Well,
show.
I don't
We
know. I might
definitely
be
should.
going live. I might. We'll see. I might maybe be going live at a haunted location during spooky
Yeah,
season. So we'll see.
that
Right?
would be
Do my own.
great.
Do my ghost hunting, but live on YouTube.
That would
We'll
be
have to have
cool.
that. We'll have to have that over at the lounge, or maybe create another channel just for that, where I do
Yeah,
my little ghost adventures. Because if I'm listen,
yeah,
if I am gonna be traveling, I'm gonna be stopping at different places too, not
yeah.
just true crime cases, and I'm gonna be stopping at different places too. So it
Absolutely.
might, yeah, it might be a thing where
Yeah,
CJ's got a camera on his backpack and a flashlight, and we're exploring. So we'll see.
yeah.
Be
I
interesting.
just see you put a GoPro right here
Something.
across your head.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
about it. So we'll see
yeah.
what happens for the future.
But yeah,
But
and I think this is why, back to Herb, and I know that was the subject. We follow bunny trails, but yeah, this whole
that's us. That's us. That's the beautiful part of
exactly.
it. It's on the fly, and it's all natural.
Definitely,
It's all
definitely
natural.
on the
Yeah.
definitely on the fly. But oh Herb, that's why I think there's so much information coming out. They're getting pretty desperate. Like I said earlier, if you didn't see it earlier, they have so many bones and nothing to do with them. I mean, come on, just the tagging and bagging and the space required for the police to keep up with is like, it's not like they can have a yard sale, okay? They've got to keep these bones. So they are desperately begging people, hey, if you have someone missing in the 80s or 90s, traveling through, maybe took a temporary job, I don't know. If you're not paranoid like me and CJ, do that DNA, reach out to them, call that number, do a DNA test, and see if maybe your
Yeah.
relative was buried at Fox Hollow or elsewhere. So,
I mean, it would be because I think that's how they're gonna be able to find. They're gonna find it from these DNA family trees,
mm-hmm,
and that's how they're gonna. Because once you find a missing persons case, you know the name. You just
mm-hmm,
need to know where the link is, and I think with other family members, doing that or have done it already, I think it's going to open up new books for a lot of these victims to finally be identified, and it's really going to help a lot of the families too, because like I said earlier, like with the stigma going on and how
mm-hmm.
some of them probably to this day, feel like uh, some sort of guilt for not doing enough, but the stigma was pretty
Yeah,
strong back then.
yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I kind of understand. So
I do. I mean, I remember that time period, and I get it, but I think now, and especially CJ, as people get older, the older you get, the less you care. Which is why a lot of times on my channel, when somebody is making a comment or, a threat or a just trolling, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I
hmm
seriously do not care. Don't harass my chat, my subscribers or my guests, but otherwise, the older you get, point man, is you really care less about what people think because, and
hmm
here's the reason: as you get older, the older you get, the more you realize how stupid people really are, in general, and you're like, I let this dictate my life, when I was younger, and I was concerned about what people are going to say.
Mm,
And you're
yeah.
older and you're like, they're just as dumb as I am. They've made a bunch of
Mm,
boneheaded mistakes too, and
yeah.
I don't care anymore. And then you start
Yeah.
thinking about your loved ones and the people, and you're like, what's more important? Not how people are going to perceive them or me or the family or anything else, but, finding rest and finding closure for these poor victims that
Yeah.
met their end there.
There's a
mean, it's
reason. There's a reason. There's a reason, and whatever that reason is, there's a reason our souls were blessed to have the gift of life, right?
yes.
And there's a reason why we are here. Now, what that reason is, it's we could spend our whole life trying to figure it out, but there's a reason, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why we have voices that have always, how we were talking about when we were in schools. I had a loud voice, you had a loud voice. We had different voices, but they were both
Yeah.
loud, even from back then. And so there's a reason why we are doing these shows, and there's a reason why we do cover these things, because we are those loud voices that can talk about these things. And especially for the people that feel that they can't. And, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, like, we could easily be talking about the manhunt. We could easily be talking about all these other things or whatever else. But,
Mm-hmm.
we're also taking time, like 3.5 hours this morning, afternoon, talking about a case, just trying to put awareness out there, because the only reason we even brought it up in a previous live was because there was another video that came across that there was new remains being discovered, and it's like people don't know unless they talk about it. I would have never known about the case if Justice hadn't mentioned it in the beginning of the year. And
Yeah.
when you listen to all the different facts of this case and all the different things that took place, it's like, how in the hell is this not one of the most talked about cases? You've seen it.
Exactly.
There's so many unidentified remains, so many, and so many more that there possibly could be. I think there should be more. I've even honestly thought about, instead of making this, keeping it a members only, I thought about just making it available to everybody, because
Yeah.
it does need to be out there. So I don't know. We'll
I
see.
know. I'm thinking of as the show has progressed and some of the things that we've talked about. I know. I was gonna close mine off after this, but I don't think I will. Because you're right, it is so important.
Yeah.
It never got the coverage it should have due to the stigma, and so
Mm.
now you have all these families having no idea what happened. And I mean, can you imagine as a victim, CJ? Let's say you went to Fox Hollow. The last thing that you remember seeing as you're passing is these stupid mannequins by a pool. What a horrifying last image. And then
Mhm.
you're just dumped out on the grounds. I mean, I'll just tell you, I would have haunted Fox Hollow. I would be haunting Herb in the afterlife. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, can you
I can
imagine?
imagine.
Yeah. So, and maybe some families don't want to know. There is always that possibility. And I mean, that's their decision. But still, these people had a life. And that's what's important. What we have now is bones. But just like the video just showed, there are pictures, there are stories, there are memories. Each one of these bones belonged to a person that had a face, that had a name, that had a life, that, like they need to be known. Not just buried out here and, oh, well, they
Hmm.
disappeared back in the 90s, but who
Yeah.
knows?
Unidentified. That's
Right.
somebody's soul.
Yeah.
That obviously um, was affected in a very disturbing way and unfortunate way as well. And they deserve just as much justice as any of these other cases that we talk about. And that's what I'll do. I think I'm going to make this available to the public. So please, when it's these members only shows, they don't get a lot of love. So definitely, after I make a switch, maybe put a comment in the comment section or something, and then it might generate some interest and get some information out there. And maybe some of these loved ones that do have these missing family members, maybe it is something that they would want to do. Maybe they'll come across the show, they'll see us kind of talking about it, and maybe they'll be like, you know what, maybe, regardless of all the other reasons, maybe why I shouldn't, maybe I should do this DNA thing, because maybe it could be my contribution to the database that might make that link pop up, and the remains become identified. So I think it'd be a great thing. So yeah, and then episode, part 2 of this case, that'll be members only for sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this one public, and then from that point on, we'll just keep them members only for all the members. But this is such an informative, great episode from the WTVR or WRTV news channel. Great program that we got to see. Great conversation in the beginning, and I always love having you on. So I can't wait to do more shows together. I really appreciate you so much.
I love when we go off topic. I'm not sure that the audience always appreciates our humor, but I definitely get it's definitly entertaining to me anyway. But
it is. It's natural. Yeah. It's organic. Where are you going to find it? Right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. A lot of I watch a lot of lives and stuff, and I appreciate panels who stick on topic and everything, but at the same time, it does become, in my opinion, sometimes it can become dry. So having a little humor thrown in there, a little paranoia, it all works.
Parts that are hard, and then we have a little bit of laughter in between and crack a couple jokes, and then we get right back to it. When we're driving down the highway, we sometimes hear the brrr, because we're going off the side, but we're always back in the 2 lines here.
Eventually.
Thank you so much, Silky. I appreciate you.
No problem.
And I can't wait to do another one. And thank you so much for taking your time. And thank you for your company today, and the community too. Thank you so much for a great show, and I'm just, it's such a blessing to have all you guys be a part of the community, and have you guys' support and belief, because that's what I need. I need the support and I need the belief, and I'll show you what I can do when it comes to that. So yes, thank you, Silky. Appreciate it. Everybody, I'm not sure. I'm going to hang out in Discord for a little bit with the mods, and then I'm going to kind of go from there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be live at some point, whether it's today, later in a bit, or tonight or something. I won't be going too late tonight. I'll probably be, if I do a show, it'll be a little earlier, so that way I'm not up all night, because I'm going to have a long day tomorrow. So but I will be back on at some point today. So thank you, Silky. Appreciate you. Thank you, community. Appreciate you so much. Can't wait for the next part when we talk about this. Definitely got to find the picture with the decorations, because I do want to show that. And thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you.
Thank you
Silky,
so much for having me, CJ.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
So are you. All right.
Oh, whatever.
I'm going to bow out, and y'all, my people, and CJ's people, y'all all just stay silky, okay?
Stay silky.
Just wanna say this is my way of telling you everything I could never say before. Yeah, this is my way of telling you that every day I'm loving you. Just wanna say this is my way of telling you everything I could never say